Hello everyone, welcome back. We actually haven't changed our audio settings yet, so we'll just do that real quick. Professional streamer, by the way. Welcome back to another Tomato Sauce stream. Today we're going to be playing some Meeg-chan. So many people are so enamored with this deck, partially because of the meme factor. Who doesn't love the cute little princess mutton, right? It's partially because the deck, on paper, could do things, as well as it does have a lot of cards on the restricted list, which is very interesting. I don't think anyone would have predicted that we would have had multiple Meeg hits on the restricted list prior to it coming out in Duel Links. That's very interesting. Very, very interesting. But other than that, we do want to update our tier list. We do want to talk a little bit about the meta today. We are going to be going over the limit and restricted list and what we think could potentially come off, what we think should probably go on, if anything at all. Maybe the general consensus is that Konami is immaculately perfect at just getting the restricted list exactly correct. Maybe that's the case, maybe. But let's see who we've got in today. We have Gunkin, Suship, Shari. Welcome. And then we have Dragson, always here. We have Cocktail Samurai, first time chat, who is cute as a button. Well, it is Meeg, but also it's kind of me and also kind of all of you. So then we have True G Doc. Hey everyone, hope you're all doing well. Well, I'm doing well. Hopefully everyone else in chat is doing well as well. We have Mr. Bad Time XD, also first time chat. Didn't know you streamed till saw your VOD. Usually watch on YouTube. Love the content. Thank you. Yeah, we stream here twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week. Basically, if there is a new content drop, we tend to do 3 times. Otherwise, we just do every Tuesday and Thursday at the same time. Obviously, we used to stream a bit earlier, but now we stream from these times. So, now you know. So we have Ninjetti Ursus in the chat, are everybody's favorite machine player. I think, at this point, I think it's fair to say Ursus is probably the best machine player. Now, you could make the argument a lot of people aren't playing machines right now, so maybe, like, the quote-unquote best machine player hasn't, like, played machines in a while. Maybe they're out there hiding. But I think as far as tournament results go, Ninjetti is probably the best current machine player. We'll see if that changes in the future. Sad, no one has used Secret Order with Gaia yet. So disappointed. So I did actually want to do that. I was looking at a Secret Order Gaia, like, build with, like, maybe, like, Buster Blade or something like that. But every time I build it, it always kept coming back to the same issues, which is, if your biggest guy is a 23 and you gain a 7, you still only go up to 3k. So you can't beat Gear Golem. You can crash into it if it's in attack mode. You can't beat Dragia Star. There's actual quite a lot of cards that are actually 3k attack that does create a bit of an issue for him, as well as their warriors. And there's this little deck running around that gets to kind of really punish you if you play warriors. It's kind of the same problem that Elemental Heroes is having right now, which is the deck is actually all right? The deck is all right. The deck is underperforming compared to some of its other brothers that have come out in a similar way. But the deck is okay. Unfortunately, there's this little problematic deck going around that gets to say, oh, you're playing warriors. Oh, I get a free win. So it's awkward. It's definitely awkward. We have the Rip. I'm Toon King 69. Oh, Toon King. Yes, I recognize that name. I think I responded to, at the very least, I liked your comments today. I remember seeing that literally today. So you know that it's me commenting on your videos. Bluetooth Dragon deck when? So Bluetooth is, as you probably noticed by the fact we're now on Meeg, we've kind of gone over all of the meta-relevant decks, and now we're starting to get down into, like, okay, these are kind of the fun decks. These are the decks that you're going to be able to enjoy and have a good time with, but maybe not win a tournament with. And, you know, Meeg's the first one of those, or Miss Mutton. So, you know, Bluetooth is coming. It is down that pipeline, and we will get to it. We will get to it. I'm trying a version that uses a Secret Order with 2 Innovator. Ooh. So, there was a list being played by, I believe it was Max K, that was the Triple Order with triple Tough Striker, triple Gold Rush. That deck did okay, right? But in my opinion, it was nowhere near as good as just the original version, but like with the reactors thrown in. So like maybe a hybrid of the two will make something really cool happen. The only downside is the deck is basically Mirror Innovator the deck at the moment. So if you cut 33% of the most important card of the deck, is that going to hurt consistency, right? That's the only issue with that. But I think for now, what we're going to do is we're going to hop into the game and we're just going to jam a few games of Meek. I think that's the plan. We're going to play a little bit, and then once we've got a few games under our belt and we've warmed up a bit, that's when we're going to kind of go into like the big discussion topics. Galaxy has been hard to deal with, sadly, using machines too. Galaxy is hard for any deck to deal with. I don't think any deck in the game actually has a very favorable matchup into Galaxy, which is a little bit scary. But, there are obviously caveats to that, right? Galaxy can just brick if they don't get what they need early. They're in a really bad position. If you get all your back row early and Galaxy doesn't get rid of them, you can stop a lot of their pushes. Galaxy does need the Meteor charge to usually get a load of damage in. And if they don't find that, they don't really get to play the game very much. Ooh, okay. What do you do specifically? Place a beast at normal on the field, set a meet and greet or graveyard. Right, we don't care about that. We're just gonna set, tribute set out the Galactica Oblivion for that 2,500 butt. And then we're just going to kind of hope our opponent doesn't play like Harvey or anything. Now, we're expecting this to just be Metarion, so we'll see what happens here. Yeah, I mentioned using Star Dragon and Dragius. If Udius can dress as Ms. Mutton, what's your excuse? Well, in order to actually get a Miss Mutton costume, I'd probably have to make it myself, and my handicraft abilities are not top-notch, let's put it that way. I don't have any of the materials, I don't have anything that I would need to do it, I also do not have the skill or talent in order to actually create something like that. But, I will say, people keep mentioning that Udius dresses up, but in my opinion, I think it's Tanzan, the one of the guys that works at UTS who plays the Track Tiger deck. When he dresses up as Meeg, that, in my opinion, is peak. That is peak Meeg. Why have we put these all in attack mode? You know I double tribute set this. Okay. So we're baiting, I guess? Alright, this hand is really bad. So I could flip this up. Right, that is an option. And I could ram into this and get in for a whopping 2,000 damage. If he goes into a fusion, he's going to out this either way. But if he specifically makes the warrior one, it puts me in a really bad spot. I think the line here, we are going to get a little bit aggressive, because I don't see how this deck wins without getting a little bit aggressive. So we're going to see if we can get in for that 2,000. Just a free 2,000 would be really, really good. If we force out a back row, we forced out a back row. It won't be there to stop us later. Alright, there we go. Just a third of his life points gone. That's pretty good. It's the only moment I know from the anime because I'm waiting for dub. That is absolutely fair enough. Fair enough. If Mirageus wasn't limit to 7 or lower, would be way better. Yes. Yes. Mirageus will get the fusion, though, and the fusion is still really good. We'll have to see what actually happens with, was it Mirageostar and Metageostar? We'll have to wait and see what actually happens with them. Okay, so we are using the type change. We've changed my guys to... Is that right? You've changed me into... Okay, we have changed ourselves into warriors. So he's probably then just going to try and go for the OTK. Bear in mind, it'll be a lot weaker with this. We just need to make room, so we just use that because that was the easiest one to get rid of. Curious. Curious. Galaxy can struggle to out 2 bosses in 1 turn at least. The thing is, right, they can, but that doesn't mean they always do, right? Galaxy can still struggle to get through that. And not many decks can actually easily just put up double boss. Like, some decks can, right? But not all of them. Not every deck is just like, oh yeah, you can just make 2, like, 2,500 guys. Like, some decks really struggle to do that. I think Zuijo is coming at some point because Udius has voice lines. I mean, we know we're getting him eventually. Yeah, I know it's like Zuijo. I don't really like the pronunciation personally. mean, do I just use this to keep this around? I'll tell you what, we're going to go for a use it or lose it mentality. We're going to use that, and the logic is that we're going to... If he's going to OTK us, we're going to get OTK either way. So we're not going to bother, like, trying... Come on, what is this? Well, we could do this, I guess. So Secret Order, we'll just bring out you. And then we're going to go Secret Order, and we'll just bring out you. Then we're going to go Rage of the Beasts and pop, I know that. Then we're going to go Battle and Swing. Oh, he's got another back row. Imagine if he didn't have both of these traps, we sniped the correct one, and then we just win. How funny would that have been? So now, we die if he has exactly Type Change Beam. He has to have the Warrior in hand, so he can't, he can't use the one on the field, and I believe, is there one in the graveyard, or is there not? There is not. So he would have had to draw for turn, Type Change Beam, and the Warrior, and then he's got game. So has he drawn both of those cards? That's the question. Okay, Barrage of Steel's fine. We don't care about that. Oh, let me guess. Oh, yeah, let's get out of this game. Oh, this crazy kid and his... Guys, it's okay, though. Because Type Change Beam is completely fine. There is nothing wrong with the card whatsoever. It is balanced beyond belief. There is absolutely nothing wrong with it. Keeps applying the clown makeup. It's weird Yuamu has more lines with Yuhi's deck than her own. Yeah, I guess it's because, like, her deck isn't really going anywhere yet. Maybe because they gave her, or they get a plan to give her a bunch of fusion voice lines. Are you Sam Witwicky? Why the fuck Orcust just have new support so lame? Sam Witwicky, are we talking about, like, Transformers? Are we, is that a Transformers reference, Kim friend? Also, welcome on in. Also, what's wrong with Orcust? Yeah, Orcust is cool. Okay, so... What's going on? Why are the skills not being displayed? Do I not have a... Oh, I didn't set a skill. We didn't set a skill, guys. We forgot. That's, our opponent also doesn't have a skill, so we're both skillless. But that's very funny. We need to amend that after this game. Go get him, Golem. Eh. So that's a tribute set. I have no idea what that is. Did you read the new Orcust cards? Are we talking about new physical or new Duel Links? Either way, the answer is no. The answer is definitely no. We need... we really need Rush Duels over here. The game is fun and the card looks so clean. I do think the art for the Rush Duel cards is super nice. Oh, it is Dual Karatlus. This is like one of the only one tribute cards worth playing right now. But what have you got to out Golem? Like, you must have something. What? Oh, you're just like, I don't want to take a crap ton of damage, so I'm just going to put them in defense. To get them out of defense. Okay. I respect it. Silver Wolf. Puckle Puckle Chew. Rage of the Beasts. Pop this. That's a pretty good hit. Silver Wolf. I don't really care about the dual Coatlas, so we're going to do this. We'll Tribute 1, Tribute 2. We'll go Secret Order. Bring this out. Yes! Now, that wasn't really worth saving as a replay, but we did find a win. Now, let's give ourselves a skill. That's probably where we should go next. OCG, TCG? Yeah, I haven't seen those at all yet, Kim Friend. People said the dub may suffer because of some stuff, but Udius's voice lines seem to keep the spirit of it anyway. Yeah, they've made Udius a little bit British. Which, like, I'm not against that. But it's not the direction I would have gone in, I suppose. Right. We want... Oh, what's the skilling called? Servant of Dawn. That is the skill of choice. So I'll save that. Jump back. And jump back into some games. Yeah, man. Link 1 Orcust. Yeah, Link 1 or... Link 1s in general, right? Am I the only one who thinks Link 1s probably shouldn't exist? I feel like Link 1s are too good. Well, I'm British, so well, I am also British. You can probably tell by my accent. Very southern British accent I have. Which, again, I don't think that's a problem. I think being British is fine. Having a British voice is fine. It's just... when it's such a departure from what you're used to, that's when it gets a bit weird. You got to remember, I've already seen like 150 episodes with Udius not having a British voice. Now, I obviously haven't actually seen this series, but I kind of get the impression, based off of their introduction to Duel Links, that 2 of the 3 main characters weren't even really given decks, which seems bizarre. Are the siblings meant to be side characters that are mostly ignored in favor of Udius? So yes and no, Grand. Udius is, without a doubt, the main character. He gets the most screen time, he gets the most duels. They are kind of like his supporting cast. They're like his Joey, right? They still have a decent amount of duels. They get nowhere as near as much as the main character. But they more represent characters like growing over time. Like Yuhi's deck drastically changes and it goes in all these different directions. So he starts out with basically his dinosaurs, like the mechanical dinosaurs. And then as the series goes on, he gets like mechanical insects that become like his fusion strategy. But he also gets like his maximum dinosaur. His deck kind of goes all over the place, is the best way to say this. There isn't really any coherent strategy to it. Yuamu's deck does have a coherent strategy. And that is, you know, it's all about manipulating attack points, using Bluetooth to pop, and then she goes into her fusions, and her fusions are very deliberately like popping your opponent's cards, gaining a load of attack, and then the burn effects that are attached to a lot of her other fusion cards. Because she gets a secondary boss called Red Boot Dragon. Red Boot Boost Dragon, I think it's called. Which is like, you know, if Bluetooth is her blue eyes, she gets her Red Boot, which is her red eyes. And Red Eyes does add like this burn type strategy to it as well, which is pretty cool. Morning, everyone. Hello, Kuova. Welcome. Link 1s should only be for decks that are desperate for them, like Gen X or Traptrix or Musket. Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it. I like Link 1s in decks that are like, I guess, kind of bad. Stop popping on my back row. But like Link 1s that like any deck can use. There are a lot of monsters that just kind of want to go to the graveyard, or effects that can trigger off of going to the graveyard. So like Link 1s seem just really good at getting things going, I guess. The reason I ask is because Luke, Roman, etc. seem way more defined. Yes. It is a bit weird, because Manabu, when he comes out, is exactly the same. Manabu gets just a bunch of generic shit that just goes in his deck, and then his boss monster is just a cool boss monster on its own. And that seems to be the theme with early Go Rush, because you got to remember that even in Duel Links right now, if you look at the Light Galaxy cards, there's not really a lot going on. There's a bunch of normal cards. They use an out-of-archetype spell in Secret Order to make their plays actually happen. The only interesting thing that they've got going on is Galactica Force and Meteor Charge, and those are pretty generic support spells. Right? So, like, even when you look at Udius, there's still not much going on there, at least in my opinion. Let's do this. We will tribute out Ms. Mutton. Out she comes. We'll drop the Gazelle. We'll activate Rage of the Beast, and then we're just going to hit the right one. We're just going to hit this one. Easy, right? Ah, probably not the best. We'll use Servant of Dawn. Boost this up. Does it make much difference what we hit here? It potentially could. Right, we'll try and swing into this. So he's got something. If it's slime, we might not want to use it. It's widespread. Ugh. Well, we did play around widespread, but unfortunately, this ain't looking good for us. But yeah, so what I would say is early Go Rush, as in the TV series, is really hard to watch because they spend a good 10 episodes just teaching you how the game works. And because of that, every card in everyone's deck is super, like, generic and doesn't really have an identity. So, like, one thing I will say is in the latest series of Go Rush, we did see some shenanigans happen. I won't get into that because of spoilers, but basically we do see Yuamu's and Yuhi's decks basically get merged, and they do get a fusion between Bluetooth and Jointech Rex. So eventually we will see that kind of happen. And Yuhi gets a new archetype called Hybridrive, which is like machines that work with dragons and dragons that work with machines. So like when that happens, yeah, you get to a bit more of a coherent strategy. But, you know, generically, they're not anything special. Guys, I think we're dead. Yeah. I do think it's interesting. We have started to see a lot of Japanese players move on to Widespread Ruin, which is weird considering one of the best decks in the game is Secret Order, which is also something we're playing that makes it so Widespread Ruin doesn't work. But I guess they're just that scared of Metarion. I can't imagine fusions between two double tributes are good. Generally, no. So the first one we ever really got, let's drop this up here. Let's have a look. What was it called? So it's a Dark Galaxy one. Void Velgir. Now let's see if we can find it. Was it this one? Yeah, Gigantomachia. So this was like the original, like let's fuse two. Well, to be fair, there's also Seven's Gears, but that's a whole other kettle of fish, so we're going to ignore that. Void Velgir Gigantomachia was like the first double boss, I guess, of Go Rush. So this is made using 2 level 8s, I want to say. And it's like, it's okay. It's got 3400 attack. That's decent. Send one card from your hand to the graveyard, destroy a spell trap on the field. That's fine. Any card in your hand is now a back row hate. And then this turn it gains 500 attack and can attack twice. Okay, you know, 39 that can attack twice is also pretty good. But if you really break it down, this is kind of worse than Dragia Star a lot of the time, and a lot harder to get out. So it's like, does it matter? It's a weird one. Because like, so this is like your generic double boss one, right? If we go and look at like Seven's Gears, it's an outlier because this is a card that reads you win the game. This is obviously again made by using 2 boss monsters, but no one summons it that way. Everyone cheats it out by using cards from the graveyard. And then this card basically says, I get to attack twice, and I'm going to gain 1,000,000 attack, so I just win the game, right? Void Velgir looks so cool. Can't wait to find and play them. Yeah, Dark Galaxy is really, really fun, and the archetype is really, really cool. And Zuijo, who plays them, is also really, really cool, so there's that. But if we go and take a look at this one, Jointech Burst Dragon. So this is the fusion between the 2 bosses. Now, again, you don't really want to summon this normally. You want to, like, cheat it out, ideally, right? You don't want to just, like, hard tribute summon 2 bosses and fuse them together. And also, I wouldn't expect to see this for a very long time, because, like, anime storyline-wise, this wouldn't be for a while yet. But we can send the top card back to the graveyard, destroy all face-up monsters, 2,500 less attack on your opponent's field. So again, it doesn't even out the proper big boss monsters. Then this card gains attack equal to the number of monsters destroyed with this effect times 500, and then you can destroy a spell trap. So even this card, like, it's not that great for how many hoops you have to jump through to get it out. So Jointech Burst Dragon, what does get it out? Was it Hybridrive Fusion? I want to say it's this one. Let's try and get... We do this. Better get a better look at the card. So shuffle 4 dragon and or machine monsters from your graveyard into the deck. Your opponent special summons 1 monster from their graveyard to their field in face down defense position. Then you can fusion summon by shuffling 1 dragon and 1 machine from your graveyard into the deck. So it's got a lot of restrictions, and it does give your opponent a body. But the way they use this in the show is like a big anime moment where it's like, you can summon it out, but then I'm going to like flip it up anyway, sort of thing. So it doesn't end up mattering too much. But like in the real world, where we don't get anime bullshit luck, unless we get like a skill that does that, realistically, that's not going to go very well. And also, again, you probably noticed the fact these cards haven't been translated. These are all still very new cards. And as much as I think we could easily get some newer cards released earlier, I don't think we're going to get the newer anime important cards earlier. So the Hybridrive stuff I don't think will come for a very long time because, you know, if for whatever reason they do time skip world, which I don't know if they would, but if they did, these would all be part of that. And typically they, Konami do like to release things in a certain way, and they like to keep the anime, like, pace going, I guess. I gave up on Go Rush because of the 6-episode rule. I guess I'm going to give it a second chance. Yes, the early Go Rush is painful. It is so painful. When you get to, like, Udius versus Weejo, which is, I think, like, episode 15, like, it really picks up from there on. But that early Go Rush, I can't really recommend people watch it. I'm always like, go back, watch the beginning on like 2x speed. So you'll get through it, you'll absorb the information you need about the characters and how they know each other and all that crap, but you don't have to put up with the awful duels. Because the duels are just so bad, they're so bad. I reckon we'll get Jointech Burst, same time as 7's Dragius Fusion. I mean, potentially. Like, I will say, 7's Geass did warp the entire meta around itself. Burst hasn't really done anything. Like, that card is still a bit mid. Void Velge looks cool. It's a shame you got basically like one character for character draft. So for character draft, it's not the end of the world, right? Basically, if any new support comes out, it was one of those things where we were quite balanced on character draft until Go Rush came out. And then, like, all of the main characters were using decks that I didn't have. So I basically got, like, machines. And that was it. But, when the next season comes out, when Yu-Gi-Oh! 9s comes out, we'll get to see if I get, a bigger end of the stick, right? Alright, let's jump into another game. I want to play just a little bit more Meeg. We haven't really had, like, a good game yet. We've only won once. And that was against someone that didn't have a skill. I don't know really if we have any winning matchups with this deck. Probably not. But we'll see what we can do. We've also not actually seen our Meeg specific spell card yet. So maybe if we see that, it will turn everything around. That as a hand, that is... Guys, I'm not feeling this hand. I actually think the correct play is to pass. And the reason is, if we set the one monster we have, we don't increase the number of cards we're drawing next turn. And if it gets outed, no matter what we draw, this hand is still crap. Like, we'd have to draw exactly Secret Order. Or, like, nothing else helps. Okay, there's a Glaciosaurus. Okay, so he's playing... What skill is he playing? Because if he was playing Fusion Deal, he would not have an Archive skill. Our opponent may be cooking. Save this duel. What? This is why you shouldn't play Miss Mutton. Bruh. I think for the same reason, we still don't set this. Like, we took damage there that we wouldn't have taken, right? Because this thing does have 1500 defense. But I still think statistically, we have a better chance if we keep this in hand. Now, is that going to matter? Probably not. Winnable trust. Alright, I'm putting my trust in you, Cocktail Samurai. I believe in you. Have you considered Currybot? So this isn't actually our list. This list is by Monosync, who is the tournament host of the Rush Duel Links weekly tournaments. He is the only player that has seen any kind of success with this deck. So we thought as a good starting point, we'd just use his list. We can develop this as we go. But as for right now, this is what we've got. Now, did we use that just to get the 500 boost? Or was it to empty the hand? Because we did just throw a normal summonable monster in the bin. And we're setting. What is happening? Why are we getting extra turns? I feel like we should be on like a 2-turn clock and we've just gotten off scot-free somehow. I will allow this. Alright, normal summon, normal summon, normal summon. Christ. Alright, in the spirit of trying to not die, we're actually going to set this card. We have so many normals that we could have just drawn, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. There's only 14 normals. Right, to be fair, there are 3 of these. These are kind of like normals. Like, if you squint at them. Alright, what? Our opponent's gone to battle phase. Normal summon! Normal summon! Behold, the Willy Wonderland ground mutton. Where are they? Where are the normals? Where are the spell traps? Like, we need Secret Order or a normal summon, and we have just found everything that is not that. Oh boy. Imagine if we somehow win this game. Imagine that happening. Fusion. Okay. Okay. So he's going to make a 2800 guy. And now Tomato clogged the back row so he can't play the top. The thing is, if we're surviving this turn, we're using a back row. So, like, that doesn't matter. Okay, the boy has hit the field. The Laden Star is here. We're also apparently on ads, so if anyone has ads, you know, I hope they're good ads. If anyone doesn't have ads, congratulations, you dodged the ads. We're activating the effect just to get cards out of the hand. I respect it. Our opponent was nice enough to spend the entire 30 seconds doing nothing. Where the ad? It's hiding, Dragzin. It's scared of you. Another back row. Battle phase. You've activated my trap card. Go Widespread Ruin. Now, can we finally play a card? Will the deck allow me? Oh my god! Okay, but now what do we do? Did we just make... I think we just make Gear Golem. Behold my Golem. Go get him, Golem. Of course, we do just kind of die to, like, anything at this point, but... maybe he just doesn't have the out. There's always a chance. This is already closer than I thought this game was going to be. So, it's looking alright. It's looking alright. Go Cyclone! Well, he hit the not trap. Oh, it did not matter anyway. Chances are Slime wasn't going to save me anyway. If he can out-golem, we were dead regardless. Almost certainly. Start, restart. Balls. Welcome on in, Ray. How you doing, good? My good friend. You've caught us at a weird time. You've probably noticed by the hand. We're having a game. This is also turn 10. I don't know how we've made it to turn 10. But by golly, we've made it. Meek-chan, no. I mean, we haven't even been able to summon Meek-chan yet. She's been chilling. So what does he need to kill this? He needs type change beam, or he needs to make 2 fusions. What do we think? Double fusion? Is that the play? It's got to be double fusion, right? So the last cards in hand would have to be Actor... what's it called? Serpainter and Fusion. So does he have exactly those 3 cards in hand? That is the question. If he has exactly that, he's got this. Oh, he could just have Tribute to the Doomed as well. That'd be a much simpler way. Is Meeg-chan technically a furry? Yes? I think we're going to go with yes. I'm open to conflicting opinions, but I'm going to go with yes. I think Meeg-chan is a furry. Congratulations, you played against the only Metarian player with TSA. I mean, it's possible. Definitely possible. Also, I play TSA and Metarian. Just saying. I think it's a really cool card. Have you watched the last episode of Go Rush Tomato? I can't find it anywhere. I have watched 127. I have not seen 128, assuming 128 is out. Huh. I think I just set this. Realistically, the clock doesn't speed up much if I put this in attack mode, and I think there's a lot of ways that having it in attack could get me punished. So we're just going to do this. Punch! We're now tied on life points. Meeg-chan is a monster, so I'm going with no. So are we saying that being a monster makes you exempt from being a furry? Is that the logic we're going by there? Okay, seems we're at the same point then. Yeah, it's a weird one. I don't really know what's going on with Go Rush in terms of, is there... Because I think, aren't we supposed to be getting like another season of Go Rush? Ah, it's type change beam! Okay. So setting this potentially keeps us alive. Because we would have been dead if we had normal summoned this. $3K too strong. Exactly. Did you say earlier that you were South British? Yes! So if you win this game, it would be the most insane thing ever. I mean, considering we've basically been playing with a 2-card hand the entire game, I guess. Alright, so that is a guaranteed spinning of the Ancient Gigolem. So he's gone, unfortunately. He can then just attack over Gazelle. So if he just has any 1400 as the last card in hand, we are just dead. He doesn't necessarily know this, but he can probably infer it. So Frankenstein can't be a furry. I don't know in what world Frankenstein would be a furry. I'm now thinking too much about what that could mean, and I want to stop. No, we are not supposed to get another season. Episodes 1 to 8 is the finale for the arc and the show in general. The new Yu-Gi-Oh! Show should be revealed later this year at Jump Fest. Ah, so usually they don't have big gaps. Usually they do not have big gaps between Yu-Gi-Oh! Seasons coming out. So I would have thought that if we were getting a, 9 now, we would have got it already. What are you doing? Is bro throwing this hard? We know we know he has it. We know that he's got the spellcaster in hand. We know he's got it. He had to reveal it to change us into a spellcaster. He had lethal. He is finding the only lines that do not win him this game. What is happening? Also, that is he needs like the gold lettering, but that is a really nice looking Ancient Gigolem. I'm just saying, look at that. Look at that. Like, he knows that we don't have a legend trap to stop him. Okay, so he had lethal. Now he gets to hit us for a chunk of damage. We still probably can't win, right? We basically need a secret order off the top. We're only getting 2 draws. So, like, the odds of us actually making a comeback here, very low. But he full on had lethal and chose not to take it. Hold. We have seen none of his traps. Oh, no. The sad thing is, if he didn't pop this last turn, we could have, like, almost guaranteed. So we can't do either of those effects. So we just go for it, I guess. We're going to do the only thing we can. I tribute 2 monsters to summon forth Meek-chan. Ba-dum, 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 ba-dum. Activate our skill. Give her a little boosty. Did we do this? It empties the hand. Go meet and greed. Alright, and now we run into his trap card. We tried. Oh, it somehow connects. There is a slim chance that we aren't dead. I can't believe this game's gone on this long. I cannot believe it. Blah, blah, blah. Let's catch up with the chat. I'm going with that tomato. Persona 5 soundtrack will save you. Hey, we might be near each other then, maybe possibly. I am a Yuri now. I'm going to assume you mean the character Yuri when you say that. Hello, Tomato. Hello, Max. Welcome, welcome. The sadistic duelist hype. Oh, yeah. Could you stop just doing this? How many... Are you out of fusions yet? Or do you just keep... You've been using, like, the same... Okay, so you just hard drew these 3 together. Okay. That's fine. So that's 300 damage. If he doesn't have a normal summon, we are still in this. We just need him to have not drawn a normal. He missed lethal twice, damn. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You don't Frankenstein story. He might go to furry conventions dressed as Jessica Rabbit or something. I think it was more furry as in, like, is an actual furry creature rather than furry as in, like, someone that dresses up like a furry creature. Because Meeg is, like, an actual furry. It's TSA! Is that death? Minus 14? I think that is just lethal, yeah. We go down to 11, we take 17. Rip. Of all the ways for this game to end, I mean, we'll save this replay just because it's really funny and really stupid, but... Woof. 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 He's scared of NA, but he knows we don't have NA because we've had this in the graveyard since, like, turn 3. Meet and breed. Alright, Ray, calm down. See, Metarian isn't a brain-dead deck. It's complex, takes lots of skill. Anyway, type change, beam, reversal, reveal, sword dancer. I think that's the thing. I like Metarium. I hate the interaction between type change, beam, and Ashura Star. If that interaction didn't exist, I'm like, yeah, completely fine. I love the deck. It's powerful, it's fun, it's engaging, it does really cool shit. That one interaction ruins the entire deck for me. That's how I feel. He doesn't know he doesn't know if you're cheating or not. If he doesn't, if I'm cheating, I'm just gonna win anyway, right? That's how it works. Smash or pass Meek-chan. I mean, Meek-chan's not my type personally. First off, she doesn't look like she's that old. Second off, she is like a stick. Like, look at the like, I don't want to say girth. Look at the size of these arms and legs. I'm not about that. All right, I think this is going to be a good time because I need a break after that game specifically for us to go and take a quick look and talk about the meta, because that is something we want to do today. We do want to go over a few things. We'll see how the meta has shaped up, how the differences of the last couple of tournaments has been, and how things have been looking. So I guess first thing we actually want to do is go and take a look at the speed tier list update, because I think this is kind of cool. So, surprising no one, I think, Borrowlink and Lyrilusker are tier 1 still, right? Speed meta. So again, we're going to be doing Rush, but I thought we'd just go over this quickly because I do like whenever a tier list gets updated. I do find it really engaging. So Lyrilusk it's that deck, right? I think most people now are kind of like, can Lyrilusk just go away? Just some of the stuff this deck does is really unfun and annoying. Don't get me wrong. Some of the stuff this deck does is fine. Some of the stuff it does is really, really cool. Some of it though is toxic AF, right? Like I despise the Waboku effect so much. I know a lot of people despise the protection effect. Borrowlink, Again, does anyone actually hate Borrowlink? I think I'm tired of Borrowlink. I don't hate Borrowlink. The deck's fine, but like, I'm just like, it feels like in Rush, where we just had Machines and Cyburst just at the top of the tier list forever. It's just like, you've just been here too long, Borrowlink. I am tired of you. I would not be upset if you just disappeared, right? That's kind of how I feel about it. I don't have anything against the deck. I don't think it's busted. I don't think it's overpowered. I don't think it's toxic. I think it's fine. I'm just like, why are you still here? It's been months, Borrowlink. How are you still here? Tier 2 Fleur. Again, I'm of a similar opinion with Fleur. I know a lot of people are sick of it. I don't hate Fleur. I don't think Fleur is like super overpowered. I don't think it does anything toxic. I think it's a little bit maybe too splashable, but is that really a bad thing? Again, it's just been around for so long. Should it still be a top 2 deck? I enjoy Borrowlink. Lyrilisk is fine. Just get your credit card out and buy 3 droplets. The thing is, if you're being forced to run Droplet to deal with it, that in itself is a problem, right? I love Rockets. I mean, again, that's fine. You can love Rockets all you want. I'm not telling you not to play them. If you want to play Lyrilisk, play Lyrilisk. That's fine. I just don't like playing against them. I'm going to pull for a Muzi Howling Performer for my Harpy. Wait a minute. That is a weird sentence. But I'm waiting for half gem sale to be over. I'm going to pull for old stuff while they're cheaper first. That's fair enough. And here I thought the skill was going to get hit next KC Cup. Oh, well, I guess fine. Star Seraph will be limited 3 cards fine. I guess the next thing we'll talk about is Sky Striker. Sky Striker is like, again, it's fine. I don't really have a horse in the Sky Striker race. I think there's a lot of people that really, really, really like this deck, and it kind of plays differently to a lot of other decks in the format, so I'm kind of like, yeah, Sky Strikers are fine. This was one of the top performing decks at Worlds, and again, it has been one of those decks that's been around for a long time, but again, it keeps like going up and down and up and down, so like I'm not too worried about that personally. All meta decks just go away and come back in a few months. I mean, that's not strictly speaking true. We haven't seen Blue Eyes come back yet. We haven't seen Yubel come back yet. God, what were some other decks that were popping off before? It's not easy to remember. I'd have to like go back and look through the old tier lists, I think. 3 droplets. Anyway, Lance in response. Always build a rogue deck rather than a tier 1 deck because later the deck will get hit. The thing is, so in Master Duel, I played Fluffles because I'm the Fluffle guy, right? My deck got hit so many times because it played so much generic shit, and other people were using that generic shit better. So my deck just kept getting hit and hit and hit and hit, and now it's just like unrecognizable. Now, to be fair, a lot of that generic shit probably shouldn't be there, because if it's generic, everyone can use it. It's a little bit unfair if some of like the better decks get to use this like really good generic support. So I do understand it. What really I want is for Fluffles to just have more stuff in Archetype that does what they need to do, right? We need more like turn 1 plays in Archetype, because the Fluffle problem is always that your turn 1 kind of stinks, right? So like, you want more, because like the end board on Master Duel used to be like you'd make like Toad, Apo, you'd make sometimes VFD depending. You'd be able to make you'd be able to Scythe Lock your opponent, and like a lot of that stuff isn't fun. A lot of that stuff's kind of a little bit toxic, right? So like, I understand it getting hit. I do understand it, but now my turn 1 is a lot weaker, and I don't like that. Sky Striker, Sacred Beast. I mean, yeah, we'll see if Sacred Beast comes back. Rocket suffering from the Phantom Knight syndrome, becoming tier 1 every year. Yeah, Phantom Knights also looks like it's picking up a bit of steam. Is it going to break back into a tier deck? I don't know about that, but you know, they now have access to Book of Eclipse, which is okay. Harpy skill doesn't restrict a Muzi and Howling, and can get you with 3 fusion because the Pigeon can discard it. It's not the greatest thing ever, but I like my Harpies. I mean, that is absolutely fair enough. Yeah, it's a shame. That's why I play rogue decks the month I hit Cog with Windwitch. No Toad in Master Duel, big sad. I mean, how many decks would abuse the ever-loving crap out of Toad if it was in Master Duel? You'd start having to put a restriction on every skill, being like, okay, but now this one limits you to only using Dark extra decks, and this one limits you to only using Wind extra decks, and this, or like, and some of them you'll just get like, but you can't use Water extra deck monsters, just to get people to not play Toad, and not play like Bahamut Shark, and not play things like Abyss Dweller. Because Dweller is like, I mean, let's just click this button real quick. So actually, Dweller has dropped down. Dweller used to be up here. So the fact that Dweller is down here makes me feel a little bit happier. But is it just down here because the top decks right now are Boral Luralisk, and all of the rank 4 decks are kind of falling off a bit? I mean, there's still Shark down here, right? But like the big ones are kind of all starting to disappear. Oh, no, Toad Master Duel. Right, yeah. I, for a second, I was thinking about Duel Links. No, that was Master Duel. And I felt good. By the way, did you play Quintet or Red Rain? It was directed at Max. Necrofusion, I ran Quintet. Dweller is still really good, rank 4 XCs. I mean, yeah, Dweller is still amazing, right? Dweller shuts down so many things. There are just so many graveyard-reliant decks in the format that it's just always going to be. I don't see a world in which Dweller falls off. Like, Dweller could, like, drop down a bit, like, down to like here, but I don't see it ever like falling off of the first page, just because Dweller is just that good, right? Unless it gets like an actual hit. Quintet is a huge sometimes. But let's talk about the last few decks on here. So we have Dark Fluid. This is the Dwan special. Dark Fluid is cool. It does some really cool shit. Choose my game mat. What game mat do you want, Ray? Or do you want no mat? Okay, yeah, I thought you might go for that. So we'll have to remember to take. In fact, we'll do that quickly now. You guys don't have to watch me turn off the map, but we are going to turn it off now. Before we forget, we hate to scam as people. Alright, what sleeves do you want, Ray? No sleeve. We're just turning everything off. We're just everything's coming off. We're being naked for the rest of the stream, and possibly for the next few tournaments. Alright, everything is off. All decks, save, done. Alright, where were we? So, Dark Fluid. Dark Fluid is a deck that I think not actually many people were playing. Like, obviously there are some, like, dedicated Dark Fluid players. But, like, I don't know what it is about Dark Fluid. I don't see this just represented as much. How about a new profile pick? How about no profile pick? No, that's not happening, unfortunately. So I don't really have much to say about Dark Fluid. Dark Fluid seems like it's a really cool deck. The one thing I don't like about Dark Fluid is that the skill does a million things for a deck that's like a really modern deck. But I guess that's because Dark Fluid is a flawed card, right? When you have like an anime as fuck card, you kind of need a ridiculous skill to make it playable. So like I do understand it from that perspective. Then there's like Shark, which is just rank 4 turbo. Shark's fine. I think Shark feels like it's a good, like kind of simple to play deck. Because part of me feels like Sky Strike is pretty simple, Lyralisk is pretty simple. Fleur, I think, is simple when you get the lines down. I think Borrowlink and Dark Fluid, at least to me, stand out as being a little bit more complex. Any actual speed aficionados in the chat are more than welcome to correct me on that if they think something else is more complicated than something else. But usually how I feel this goes is, my deck hard, your deck easy, is usually how I think this kind of goes. Dark Fluid players usually run out of time trying to build the board. Yeah, it's one of those things as well where it's like, is it because building the board just requires a lot of activations, or is it because there's lots of different lines and you have to find the right one? That's the other question. Sky Striker is hard as fuck. Right, Sky Striker player spotted. I don't know, Sky Strikers to me have always felt like a very, very simple to play deck. Like, I've never really struggled with them personally. And then, you know, Unchained is here. Unchained is weird. Unchained is just, I don't know. Unchained feels like it has some really good matchups, some really bad matchups, and like hard loses to Dweller. But like, some of the stuff it does is unfair. So like, unpopular opinion, but I hate Strikers. Now, my question now is, why do you hate Strikers? Because I don't hate Strikers. I think Strikers are kind of cool. But I do not subscribe to Sky Strikers like a really complicated deck. Hello, Dwan. Welcome, welcome. We were just talking about you. Well, we mentioned you in passing when talking about Dark Fluid, and obviously your name's been on the screen for a while. That's not really unpopular. Playstyle, honestly? Oh, you just don't like how it plays. I like the idea of having, like, a control style deck that doesn't just, like, lock your opponent down from playing the game. I think that's a really cool dynamic. I think it's really hard to create a deck that feels like it answers everything the opponent does without just telling them they're not allowed to do it. And I think that makes Sky Striker really fun. I also love, like, the idea, or like the, not necessarily like the lore, but like the theming behind, like, you summon out your pilot and then the pilot gets into like the mech, and then, you know, she jumps out of the mech and jumps into a different mech. I really like the idea of that. No way the guy with Kagari profile pic is a Sky Striker player. That it could be. I don't know, Ray. Maybe I'm not looking at your profile picture that much, huh? You ever think of that? But I think, like I say, I like Sky Striker as a deck. I think it's really cool. I think it's fun. I think what it does is cool. I don't think it's an unhealthy deck. I don't think it's I don't think it's toxic. I think it's fun. It's enjoyable. A lot of people really, really like it. I just don't think it's going to be like, I don't think it has as many like lines, I guess, as some of the other decks on here. Have you seen the new Imaginary Actor support? Yes, I've played against it already. It seems pretty good, but also I don't think it... I doubt Imaginary Actors are going to be top tier in the physical game. Let's put it that way. Oh my god, yes, I love Ray. I mean, who doesn't love Ray? I love Sky Striker Ray. Now, I like Furhires, for example. So, Furhires is a cool deck. I remember when Furhires first came to Duel Links, I did really enjoy playing them. But, I will say, I tried to play Furhires, like, in a limited setting. And it was very much like, if one of them got stopped, the whole turn ended. Right? There were choke points at, like, every stage of the combo. And there was, like, no extending past it. Now, I don't know what, like, a constructed Furhire deck looks like. But, like, that's where I'm at with that. Like, for most players, it's very sacky deck. Anyway, Crow and Veiler can screw the deck sometimes. Hayate with the Link Dark Rays is a bit toxic, to be fair. Okay, let's take a quick gander then, because the majority of my history with playing Sky Striker is not in Duel Links, right? I played Sky Striker a little bit physically, and... you know, I didn't play it with the skills and stuff. So, like, let's take a quick look. So, we'll talk about Hayate. So, that's fine. Like, that's completely fine. So, it's the skill Link Dark Rays. At the beginning of the duel, gain 1500 life points. Once per turn during the main phase, you can choose one face-up card on your field. It gets 300 attack to the end of the turn. It gains additional 500 attack to the end of the turn if there is a Dark Link monster or Dark monster and a Link monster on your field and or in your graveyard. Okay, so it gains 800 attack onto your 1500 guy. What specifically is the toxic part hit one? Just so I'm aware, so I'm not in the dark. I'm not sure how Predaplants will handle the striker. Will handle if strikers will be popular. Same with maybe Shiranui. Super Poly is not so good against them. I mean, Super Poly is not going to be against everyone though. Like, that is fine. Super Poly, in my opinion, is meant to be like a side deck card. So whenever it's like a really good main deck option, now obviously side deck in Duel Links is a little bit superfluous. It's a little bit weird. It's a bit like malleable, right? It's a bit of a weird concept. But I never am a big fan of Super Poly being used in a main deck, which is why I didn't really like it in like that hero build where you'd like fuse your opponent's attributes into your stuff. I always thought that was a bit weird. Now, there are some decks that can, like, take super advantage of that, like Zombie World, right? Being able to fuse your opponent's two zombie guys together is, like, that's a cute little combo. Predaplant suffer because while it has Poly, Sky Striker swaps outright. Yeah, I feel like Predaplant won't be on top, to be honest, on release at least. I have a feeling Konami might make Predaplant skill that changes opponent's attribute. I mean, possibly. Not unless they release Drago. 2 direct attacks shouldn't be able to kill you. Oh, so we're not talking about... So we're literally talking about the line that is this card can attack directly. And then, obviously, Dark Rays boost it by 800, and then it can attack. But you don't get the second attack, right? Because we don't have the... I'm pretty sure we don't have the Sky Striker card that gives you a second attack. Or is it this Noble Arms shit? Yes, this Noble Arms shit. But in my opinion, that's Infernoble Arms' fault, right? That's this card's fault. That's not, like, Sky Striker's fault deliberately. In the same way that, like, there were the Floodgate equipped spells in Infernoble, or Inflernoble, if we remember that one. I don't think that's, like, that's not this deck's fault. That's this card's fault, right? Hopefully, because Predaplants need a really good skill, 2300 unaffected direct attack that you can make indestructible and unaffected by a game with multi-roll. Again, I like having it be indestructible, and I like it being untargetable. I think that's fine. It's just like the double attack, the boost from the skill, plus attacking directly, plus the equip spell, all together makes something a bit toxic. Dwan on the 3 stream streak. Tell that to Nightingale. I think Predaplants can deal with Lyrilusk because the Predaplant counters. Imagine Otis getting Duel Links release. I mean, it's not too far-fetched. It's non-target fusion summoning. Yeah, the Predator counters can negate effects with the right cards. Me attacking directly with Toon bullshit, or Toon BLS twice with rollback. The thing is, if you're doing that with Toons, I'm already like... You've already accomplished something that is generally, like... It's not something that should happen often. Then again, Toon BLS, if I'm not mistaken, is just not in this game, right? It's just straight up not available to us yet. Yeah, okay. Because if Toon BLS comes out... No, it is. It's an SR. Why do I never see anyone play this card? I always see Toon Dark Magician come down. I see Toon HG Golem. I don't know if I've ever played against Toon BLS. I don't understand that. I've played against Toons so much and just never see Toon BLS. I hope we get Greedy Venom. Yeah, but Toons can't easily clear your opponent's board before committing to the play, unlike Sky Striker. I mean, that is fair. That is fair. Sky Strikers do get, you know, Engage as well, which is just, like, super duper good. They have tools for, like, absolutely everything. But I still don't, like, dislike them. Again, for me, it's this. And, like, maybe the skill. Other things that need to change. I don't think you actually have to hurt the actual cards themselves or, like, the deck itself. Anyway, what's the last decks? We got Star Seraph getting knocked down after it got hit with a skill nerf. I mean, it does make sense, right? Star Seraph was pretty damn good. It was pretty good. But I'm not too sad to see Star Seraph go. I think a lot of players were getting frustrated with Star Seraphs. I've only seen a handful of good Toon players in this game. Hello, I am come for Meek-chan. Well, we've already played some Meek games. I will say the Meek games haven't been going great so far. We're currently now just looking at, like, the speed list. And then Sanavalon is here. Let's see what Dwan says about Sanavalon. I think the Sanavalon has potential in the current meta between Sanavalon Bloom. We have Resurgent, Hand-Drawn Tech. Sanavalon has multi-layered disruption, making it hard to break without using multiple cards. The protection effects from Sowing and Maiden also help them maintain their field, making them even harder to dismantle. I think that's a fair statement. Sanavalon is one of those weird decks where I feel like sometimes the deck is absolutely disgusting and other times it does absolutely nothing, and it's really weird. Fraud Seraph. Dark Rebellion and Clearwing are URs in boxes, so same will be Starving Venom because Yuri's ace, and just not to get confused on it. Seraph wasn't even that good. What? So it's one of those things where whenever I played against Seraph, I was always like, either I can just about scrape by and beat... Bearing in mind, I play Rogue, right? So, like, I'm not supposed to beat the top decks. But I would just barely scrape by or I would get absolutely dominated. From talking to other speed players, it sounded like Seraph was one of the least popular decks. I think a lot of people didn't like queuing into it. I think it was Sean who said that Star Seraph was toxic and he just absolutely hated playing against it. But, you know, different people are going to have different opinions, right? That's just how that's going to be. And then there's Shadow, which, I mean, Shadow's cool. I know this much, but powerful card like Crystal Wing. That's why I think it's going to be a bundle. Seraph was the best deck during the last KCC. Yes. I mean, Seraph, but, like, is being the best deck, is that inherently an issue? I suppose is my question, right? Because if a deck is the best deck, but isn't head and shoulders the best deck, it doesn't necessarily need a hit. If the deck also isn't unfun, or maybe isn't like completely broken, doesn't hurt the game in any way, isn't like creating these unfun game states, again, doesn't necessarily need the hit. In the same way that I could look at Borrowlink right now, and I'm like, I mean, do we hit Borrowlink? It's quote-unquote the best deck in the game right now. Does it need a hit? I don't think so, personally. I'd still be weird to put the Ace monster to bundle. Seraph falling off after losing their true boss monster, Book of Eclipse. True! And most decks can't run Super Poly anyways. Probably you were right, and it's vice versa. It had plays you couldn't play around. What specific plays are we talking about then? Well, just out of curiosity, let's take a quick look. Let's just a little deep dive into the Star Seraph, since it seems to be the topic of conversation. Good old Sentry. Scepter is unrespondable. Is it? When this card's not someone you can add a... Interesting. The skills are the problem, IMO. I mean, the skills are always going to be like the driving force, right? That's the whole point of the skills, right? Is they're supposed to make up for the deck's weaknesses, or allow it to play in a different axis, do something interesting, make it different from how it was physically, make decks that weren't very good in the physical game good in the Duel Link space, right? Don't hit Borrowlink. I am biased because I have been playing it. I mean, that is absolutely fair enough. And they were breaking through disruptions with the skills. Yes, Borrowlink needs a slight adjustment, in my opinion. Remove Searchable Lancia and ban Silver Rocket so they can't extra deck rip you. I agree with that. I think the extra deck rip is kind of lame. And I think, for me, get rid of lame shit. So I agree with that. I also think being able to search Lancia is kind of scummy. If Lancia was part of their archetype, right, if it was a borrow card, fine, whatever. Because it's not, I don't like you being able to search it personally. I don't know if anyone has like a differing opinion on that. Silver Rocket is fine at 3. Just play TG and Open Lance to protect Halberd. It's one of those weird things where like the extra deck rip can be devastating. Also against some decks they just will not care at all. But when it is good, it is really good. Can't respond with Deltaros if they make it. I think that's what they were saying. I mean, yeah. Yeah, I think the Borrow skill removing the Lancia search with the free link 2 cost would be better. Based one, I hate cards in general that let you get knowledge of the extra deck. It's pretty toxic. Well, any card that gives you any kind of knowledge, as long as it's attached to a also good effect, is always unbelievably good. With the right light being prominent, wouldn't Lightning Volt Condor or the other bird from the structure be a great anti-meta card? The issue you're going to have there is Volt Condor is a very weak body, right? It's only got 22 attack. And you have to discard a card to get that effect to go off, which means it's already a heavy investment. And there aren't that great ways to cheat it out. I mean, you can cheat it out, right? You can play Beast Summoner, you can play, is it Bombing Bird? I think it's called in the English. So, like, there are ways to do it, but is it worth it? And if you're not playing against exactly a light deck, you've now just hampered yourself by just playing a bad deck. If we got modern Volt Condor support, yes, 100%. 100% Volt Condor will come back. When we get the modern support for it, it will probably be a top tier deck. Until we get that support, I think it's a little bit cope. Link 2 is fine. Silver Rocket is toxic. Hello is life. Welcome on in. They may put Silver Rocket to 1, maybe instead of ban it, but who knows. The thing is, Borrow Load shouldn't use Silver Rocket, like, at all if it wasn't for Lyrilusk. That doesn't change anything. They don't really need any Limon cards right now. I mean, that's fair. That would be such a bad hit. It's a weird one, right? Like, I feel like the restricted list should be used to fix the current meta as it is right now, rather than, like, worrying about the future, because in the future you can just take things off the list, right? It's a weird one. It's definitely a weird one. I mean, Light is Matari inside your galaxy, so Light is definitely prominent. I mean, 100%. But, like, is it worth it to go all in on an anti-meta deck that doesn't actually anti the entire meta when you could just, like, round one in a tournament, play against a deck that's not going to work on or that will kill you through it anyway, and then you've just lost the tournament run for no reason? Like, I don't know. It's a weird one. Because even if you are able to make a Volt Condor board work, you're jumping through a lot of hoops to, like, get in some good damage and break a board, and then your opponent just makes a new board on the next turn and kills you. Like, I don't know. I feel like there is stuff there. Is it actually good? I don't know. I don't know about that. No Konami will do with Boros, so I can't give an answer. What do you mean they would still use it? Where all four of them should be given a slap on the wrist. Before Lyrilusk, barely anyone used it. Most played second. Levi. I would like Fleur to have their skill changed. However, since I think Fleur with full generic and mixed archetypes is kind of toxic. So, alright. We're using the word toxic. Now, what do we mean when we say toxic? Because in my opinion, toxic makes the game unfun, right? It's like, I want to play the game, and you're floodgating me, telling me I'm not allowed to do things. Or, this interaction lets me OTK you. Or, this one card combo gets me into a full end board of, like, ridiculous amount of disruptions. Like, that's kind of how I look at toxic. Like, if a deck's just good and, like, strong, then I'm like, that's not really, like, toxic. Yeah, Bish. Bish is exactly how I would define toxic. So I just want to know what you think is toxic about Fleur specifically. Fleur literally just pressing yellow button over and over again. So I don't mind that as long as what they end up with is breakable, I guess, right? Like, if you just use the skill 100 times in a turn and it just plays the entire deck for you, I'm fine with that as long as they don't do anything, like, unfair, right? They're not just like, oh, I've OTK'd you through everything, or, oh, I've just made a board that you physically cannot break, or I'm not gonna, like, just floodgate you out of the game. Also, hello, Icy. Welcome on in. We should just get an exclamation mark Icy in the chat. We haven't done that in a while. There's the boy. Later, I off now. See you, Dragson. Never mind, it's from Speed. No info about Rush Cut. Not yet. Rest in peace. Decks that beat my deck are toxic. True. Ban Bish. Keep Fleur skill. I think Ban Bish is the best outcome of this chat we've had all day. We just need to get rid of Bish. If we can just get rid of Bish, that's like 25% of the format just fixed, right? There's still some other problems, but, like, just get rid of Bish. I don't understand why Bish is still around. Just get rid of that crap. Bish isn't toxic, though. The skill making it off 1 level 4 is what's toxic. The thing is, Bish... So, in my opinion, it's not about how easy it is to get to Bish. It is what Bish does and what Bish represents. And I think what Bish does is toxic, so I don't like it. That's why I think it's toxic. Now, again, you're welcome to disagree with that opinion. That's just my opinion, right? I am not the voice of reason. I am not the, you know, the be-all, end-all of Speed. I barely play Speed, right? Realistically, my opinion should hold very little weight. But that's how I look at it personally. Easy access to rank 8 like Dingirsu. That is a fair comment. Having easy access to a generic rank 8 is pretty gross. Blue Eyes also yellow buttons the entire game, but the board is breakable. Yeah, when Blue Eyes was, like, a really strong competitive deck, I was like, no, just leave it. I have, like, 100% win rate against Blue Eyes. Just let it be. Everyone's playing it on ladder. It's just free wins the whole way up. That's how I just climb ladder. I just beat Blue Eyes players. And links like the Sanavalon package. What about Darkness Crested Hawk? Less investment, 3100 attack. So, true. It is a little bit less investment because you have to discard that card. But, again, it's only a 2100 attack guy. So I guess you'd have to say, like, is it worth having that over Seven's Road Magician? Now, Seven's Road Magician does a bit more setup, but Seven's Road Magician has more support cards. It's a better card in general. It can get much higher than 31. It has a fusion option available. Like, at what point do you not just say, well, I'm just going to play SRM or, like, anything similar to SRM, right? Like, even, like, Blue Eyes Bright, that can get up to 3000, and that doesn't need to be against the light monster, right? They dancing around Bish for some reason. Just ban the card and release Puzzle Boy. We don't need Puzzle Boy back though. Puzzle Boy could stay. That's fine. I don't mind them to be locked into synchros. Also, hello, Gos Amigo. Welcome, welcome. I don't mind them being locked into synchros only. Honestly, that's probably what flirt skill should be like. I think that'd be fine as well, actually. Lock them into synchros. A lot of other skills lock you, so why not have that one lock you? Ban Bish, change the skill so that it plays cards face down. I mean, possibly. Bish, very toxic. It's more the issue than the Fleur skill. Bish Balkan did nothing wrong. Is that a Bish player spotted in the chat? The problem of last meta were not fixed. Still Fleur Bird. Birds were still so new. I don't think anyone truly expected them to get, like, destroyed. I think we're going to wait until after the next KC. That might even be why we're having a double KC, or at least part of the reason, is so that we can just get another ban list out quicker. Like, that's my harebrained theory. Bish is toxic even in TCG. That's also the reason why it's played. Card is tied to FTKs, and FTKs are always bad. Let's not beat around the bush. FTKs suck. OTKs are also kind of sucky, but at least OTKs you can interact with are kind of okay. When it's like uninteractable OTK, that's when it's like ugh. Or when it's like, oh, just have the one single copy of the out in your deck or die. Like that sucks, right? Except summoning tokens. That's not toxic. Bish is never used for anything fair. Always war crimes. Stare. You can't FTK with it in Duel Links because there isn't enough zones. I mean, that's also a fair enough point. What are your thoughts on Lyrilusk as a deck in general? / personally, I don't like the playstyle and it all being cheese OTKs. So I think there should be a bunch of different ways to play the game. I think burn should always be a viable strategy. I think attacking directly should always be a viable strategy. I think there should always be ways to not just play the same game everyone else is playing, but to still be able to interact with those cards in a meaningful way. So one of the big reasons people don't like burn is because you don't play anti-burn cards in the main deck, right? Typically in TCG or in physical, if you're going to play anti-burn cards, they're called side deck cards, especially in the earlier formats up to like Duelist Alliance. If you're going to play the anti-burn cards, they go in the side deck, so therefore the first game you're probably going to get beaten. Your opponent's going to like floodgate you out the game or whatever. You're just going to burn you down. All of your traps that stop attacks and, you know, stop special summons don't matter against a burn deck, so that sucks, right? The reason people don't like burn primarily is because it turns half their cards off. That's the main reason you don't like burn. So when it's a deck like Lyrilusk that still does special summon, it still does have to declare attacks. It doesn't actually turn any of your cards off so much as they have like this annoying protection built in. And I think that protection is what I don't like from Lyrilusk. I don't like, basically, is it Nightingale? I think it's Nightingale. Is it this one? Yeah, this card I hate, right? And the reason I hate this card is because you can detach material from this card until the end of this turn. Lyrilusk monsters you control cannot be destroyed with battle or card effects. That in itself is annoying because you can do that immediately as you go into your opponent's first turn. And it basically says if you don't have exactly an out to this right now at quick effect speed, screw you, you're not dealing with my board. Well, unless you're playing very specific cards. Now, there are some cards that still can deal with that, but there's also a lot that can't. And then the other annoying part is it says, also you take no battle damage, which is frustrating because that is Waboku. And Waboku is really annoying to deal with in Duel Links specifically. So that's my opinion. I don't think the deck doing the reflective damage stuff, doing the direct attack stuff, I don't think any of that is problematic. I think it's the level of protection that the deck gets for itself. That is the problem for me specifically. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk. All right, let's jump over here. Curious to hear your thoughts. Boring links. Fleur Bird. I mean, that's fair enough. I think the only hit Lyrilusk will get is Limit 3, next KC Cup. Darkness works with counter pigeons. It does work with counter pigeons, but it's only got 2100 attacks, so does that matter? Like, is that relevant, I suppose is the question. I don't think it is personally. That would make sense. Tomato, did you see the Challenger Cup single elimination this weekend? I did not. I might play that since it's single elim. Single elim sounds cool. I actually hope Swallow and Nightingale Limit 2. Some people already winning and topping without any Limit 3 cards. Avian, Spell Tactics. Swallow, maybe, but not with Nightingale. Maybe actually Nightingale and Cobalt with 3 would probably be more insane. If 7s can't win early, they easily deck out. Does 7s deck out? So, there's a lot to unpack there. First off, I don't think Sevens decks out that much. Second, Spellcasters is like a tier 2 or tier 3 deck right now, whereas Birds like are completely not on the tier list whatsoever. Realistically, yeah, you want to win early on Sevens, but you want to win early on most decks in the format, right? I don't really think they're particularly comparable. I think like Sevens or Spellcasters is like so much higher than Birds. Well, that's just kind of how I look at it. I don't think the deck should be too much harsh hit, but then again, I don't know what Konami can do. Yeah, I mean Cobalt, they waiting Droplet to be reprinted. Yeah, target protection and no damage is very annoying. Exactly, that is my opinion. So then Lyrilusk will fall off. I agree with your take and will change my opinion to it. That is what we do, King Feo. Just listen to what the man on the TV says. Man on TV can't be wrong, even though he barely plays. He definitely knows everything about the format. I use Lava Golem or Droplet for Lyrilusk. I mean, again, that's fair enough. I mean, Lava Golem is basically kind of a worse Kaiju. And again, like I say, there are some decks that just deal with it. Like, if you just play like Ding, I'm like, yeah, your protection means nothing. I'm just going to get rid of your card. Right? Orcust, like, there's lots of decks that have the ability to just, like, non-targeting removal cards, right? As a Gem Knight enjoyer, I feel sad about the FTK take. FTK suck. I'm not changing my opinion on that. That's the truth. That's what we're gonna go with. Counter Pigeons help over regular Dragius Galaxy Sidra. Kind of, right? Like, first off, there's a lot more back row hate, so that's gonna immediately hurt those kind of things. If they have a 2800 attacker and you run into your level 7 boss monster, you're now going to crash. Now, crashing is still better than just losing your guy, but it's still not ideal, right? Counter Pigeons also, in general, hasn't been seeing a lot of play because it's just kind of bad. It's a little bit slow, and typically we aren't even seeing that many back row being played right now. I would also make the argument that, like, most people aren't going to be playing regular Dragius. Most people are going to hold that Dragius to fuse into the boss because it's the only unsearchable part of the skill. So your chances are you're going to be holding that Dragius till you can go into the fusion, and then Counter Pigeons doesn't do anything to the fusion. As for Galaxy, again, most of the time, they're going to be using Meteor Charge to change your bird to defense mode and pierce over it to get extra damage in which case, once again, Counter Pigeon doesn't do anything. And if they use Secret Order to summon out their boss monsters, they're going to be at 32, which means if they get hit with a Counter Pigeons, they'll drop down by 7, back down to 25, and still go over. So I still don't think it works out. Now, again, crashing into the Sidra stuff can be good, but it still doesn't actually work. Well, I guess it does. Against Sidra, you'll always crash. I suppose that's the takeaway, right? Because even if they use the skill to boost the level 8 or the level 5, they'll still basically go back down to 21, and at 21 you'll always crash into you, which is better, again, like we said, than just losing your guy, but you're still going to crash. Harpies is a Wing Beast and 2500 counter good. Counter good there, maybe. I mean, kind of. Like, I think it's still a little bit shaky because, like, Harpies aren't a very strong deck right now in general. But yeah, I think that's kind of that done. We've kind of covered the speed tier list changes. I would like to see some of the weaker skills get buffed. I think there are some, like, speed skills or speed decks that are just, like, they're just a little bit too under the power level of the format. And I personally, I just want to see Lyrilusk get absolutely destroyed, mate. I hate this card. Assembled Nightingale, go away, right? Because I've seen some people with the take of, like, oh, you know, just slap limit 3 on a bunch of their stuff so they can't play the other limit cards. I don't think Book of Eclipse makes Lyrilusk good. I think just having Book of Eclipse is just a really good tool that they have as well. So, like, taking away Book of Eclipse doesn't change the underlying issue of Nightingale sucks to play against. That's how I feel. Buff Galaxy Photon. I mean, unironically, you could do that. I also think you could also... Right, this might be an unpopular opinion. I think you could buff Tachyon a little bit. Like, not... Don't do anything insane, right? Don't put it back to what it used to be. But just a little... Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Itty bitty bit. There's so many decks that are just under the power level right now of the format. And they could just get brought up just a little bit. But I suppose some people also do like their deck being in that little rogue pocket of like, oh, you know, my deck isn't on the radar, people aren't going to nerf me because my deck isn't like on the tier list, right? So I think that is also fine as well. But now that we've gotten through all the speed stuff, let's go and take a quick look at Rush, because we have had a lot of Rush tournaments. This is 2 weeks. Look at how much there is. This is 2.5 weeks, or is this is 3 weeks now, right? I'm pretty sure this is 3 weeks. I'm now thinking about when the format. So no, this is 2 weeks. It's been 15 days, right? Because it came out on the 1st of October. So in 2 weeks we've had this many tournaments, that's actually kind of insane, right? When you think about it, for Rush. I have another question for you. What do you think is the stronger mechanic between Maximum Fusions, and do you think the dynamic should change? That is a question. So in my opinion, fusions are more powerful. Fusions are generally easier to get out. I think fusions are also healthier. They're more easy to engage with. Maximums have always had the problem of they are either just too overwhelming or they're too underwhelming. So if you look at something like Dynamix just doesn't do enough, right? Why would you bother summoning a Dynamix when it doesn't just like have the capability to win you the game on its own? Pretty much all the other Maximums have the ability to win the game on their own, but Dynamix just doesn't. And then if you get Maximums that are too overtuned, suddenly it's like, well, just draw the out or die, right? So Magnum Overlord had the problem of, well, have the back row to protect you, or you're dead. Then you have things like Yggdrago, which basically puts an almost always 2-turn clock on the game and says, you've got to have the out, you've got to have a TSA, you've got to have a lot of decks have their own individual outs. Tribute to the Doomed comes to mind, right? But it's like, have one of those, or you just die. To a lesser extent, Excavator does the same thing, right? Fusions are stronger, but Maximums are more annoying. Yes, I agree with Promanicus' take there. I think Maximums are unhealthy in how they play and how they can be interacted with. Maximums force you to include outs to them during the deck building process. That, in my opinion, is always a big negative. But I do think fusions are stronger. Most of the time, a fusion deck will beat a max deck. That's not always going to be the case. That's just kind of how I look at it. How bad giving us number 38 for Galaxy and Tachyon could be? God, now I've got to remember what number 38 is. I don't remember any of the number cards by number. Just FYI. It's Harbinger. Okay, Hope Harbinger. Could this card come out? Once per turn, when a spell card is activated on the field, quick effect, you can negate the effect, and if you do, attach that card. So that's already right. So right, let's start out with something very important. This is a generic level 8. That already will not stand. So you would have to have this attached to a skill, right? That would have to happen. I think if this came out as a generic level 8, so many decks, including Fleur, just so many different builds will be able to make good use of this card. I don't think that would be very good for the format. When an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can detach raw material from this card, change the attack target to this card, and perform damage calculation. If a face of Xyz monster you control will be destroyed, or by card effect, you can target one face of Xyz monster you control, gains attack each one destroy monsters. I mean, that last effect I don't think matters too much, but yeah, that first effect is really, really, really strong against a lot of decks. So I don't think that should come out personally. Tell me you want Photon Lord without saying you want Photon Lord. Exactly. I hate when people refer to Xyz by numbers. Tell me the name. Yeah, I don't know any of their name, any of their numbers whatsoever. I do not know any of them by number. Like, on the plus side, I guess I could find it quite easily, right? So we have a new top dog. As of the last couple of tournaments, that being the Go Rush Duel Grand Prix 3 and the Rush Duel Links Weekly 5, we now have a brand new best deck in Rush. And when we say best deck, what we mean is top performing deck. This has now won the most tournaments. It has the most top 4 points. It has the most top 4 representation. It has not yet overtaken Cyber Dragon for top 8 representation yet, but is very close to overtaking it on points for top 8. So Metaria now is really doing quite well. And I think this is something a lot of people saw coming. Like, the writing was kind of on the wall that Matarion was always going to be a really, really powerful deck. Realistically, it could have won a lot more prior to UO coming out. But I think a lot of people, including myself, were like, I'm just not going to bother with it until the character comes out and we get his skills, right? I will number 70 you to the Shadow Realm. Wait, Matarion is working nicely now? Yes, it is. It is working arguably too nicely. Sidra Wash, joke. To be fair, if we take a look from here onwards, this is kind of, I believe this around here is when UO got released. We actually took it off of here because we didn't want it there. But like Cyber Dragon, Cyber Dragon, Cyber Dragon. Cyber Dragon, then like nothing. Cyber Dragon, Cyber Dragon, Cyber Dragon. No, nothing at all there. Nothing. One Cyber Dragon, two Cyber Dragon. Like, Cyber Dragon's just, it has actually fallen off. And it's still getting decent representation. It's just not performing as well as it was. I think Cyber Dragon legit is in a bit of a weird spot right now. Because I think one of the downsides Cyber Dragon has is some of the decks around it, it doesn't have super good matchups into. It's like, I don't think Cyber Dragon is a pretty good matchup into Matarion. Cyber Dragon is another one of those decks that really wants to go wide. Now, at least Cyber Dragon has the option to go very narrow, right? They can just make a Cyber End. And Cyber End is cool, right? Cyber End can be difficult to out. Just make it a big 4K guy and slamming into Matarion over and over and try and kill them in 2 turns. And if your opponent doesn't have the out, you win. It's pretty good, right? You know? Matarion best deck, all those Chronicles paying off. They were never good, just popular. I don't agree with that take, Manicus. I think Cyber Dragon is still a strong deck. I do think, though, that Cyber Dragon does have a couple of really bad matchups. And also, we've just been hit with the ad break. So anyone that's got the ads, again, we hope they're good. Anyone that doesn't have the ads, congratulations, you dodged the ads. They were good, but not tier 1. So sad that Heroes didn't end up being good. So, this is another issue. It's not right. It's not an issue. We'll wait until the ads finish just to make sure that as many people are here as possible before we start yapping into oblivion about all of this stuff. But a lot of the decks in the current meta have risen or fallen based on Matarion, right? What do we mean by that? Matarion is basically the moon in this analogy, and the rest of the decks are the tide being pulled forwards and backwards and rising and falling based on Matarion. Because some decks just have a horrific matchup into Matarion specifically, and since Matarion is so popular, that kind of warps the meta around itself. So, for example, Heroes was performing a little bit better. Don't put words in my mouth, right? Don't take this out of context. E-Hero was never the best deck in Duel Links, ever, right? It was never popping off. It was never like, it hasn't got any tournament wins. But it was seeing some success. Then, everyone started playing Matarion, and then it's just dwindled, and it's gone down and down and down and down and down because that's such a horrid matchup into Matarion. And in a similar way, Cyber Dragon, I personally think, has a pretty bad matchup into Matarion. And because of that, we've started to see the most popular deck that was performing quite well drop and drop and drop. Now again, it's still holding on to where it was because it did so well during that first week. But Matarion's presence has made Cyber Dragon fall off a bit. It has made E-Hero fall off a bit. What hasn't fallen off? These 2 decks, because, and I guess to a certain extent, Psychic as well. These 3 decks, I think, have okay matchups into Matarion. Now, do they just automatically beat Matarion? No. Do they have a better chance than pretty much every other deck on this list? Probably. So that's why they're seeing a bit of a rise, or they're at least holding stable where they are, because they have decent matchups into, arguably, in my opinion, the meta-warping deck right now. Alright, now let's catch up with the chat. Matarion has a lot of answers to a lot of strategies with or without Beam. Any meaningful hits to them could just kill them though. Difficult deck to manage. Beam obviously a good spot to start. We're seeing the rise of Galaxy as it's got a good matchup into Matarion, or a better matchup than most. Over in JP, they kind of adopted the Light Galaxy as the best deck in the game very early, and they were also the people that were saying that Matarion wasn't a very good deck. And I wonder if those 2 things were connected. I wonder if they were like, okay, well, Matarion isn't very good because we really like Light Galaxy. And Light Galaxy is getting a lot more wins because we're playing into a lot more Matarion. So that's kind of how their meta was formed and how their, like, opinion kind of grew of that. But again, Light Galaxy doesn't automatically beat Matarion. You can still brick. You can still find no boss monsters. If you are able to find just the one boss, but then you don't find either a Meteor Charge or a Secret Order, you still can't make your play because we discard the boss. We can search one of those cards, then we can't use the other one to actually get damage in. So it's not like a free matchup. It's just if Light Galaxy kind of gets an average hand, because if you think about it, to open a level 7 boss monster in Light Galaxy in a 30 card build is about 70%. Then to open one of the other cards you need, so it'll be either one copy of your 3 of Meteor Charge or one copy of your 3 of Secret Order, is another 70%. So you've got two 70% checks that if you get both of them right, so if you just open one of each of those cards, you've basically got such a leg up in that matchup that you're going to almost always just win. But if you don't open that, you know, double 70% chance to open both of those cards, then it's a little bit more difficult, right? And that's, I think, Light Galaxy's big problem overall. Light Galaxy, to me, feels very, very sacky. In some matchups, it's very, very strong. In some matchups, your opponent's playing such a slow game that you can just kill them before they get going. But, especially in, like, the mirror for Light Galaxy, it comes down to who got luckier and who went first and who went second. That has a massive, massive impact on Light Galaxy's performance. Or better matchup the most. Yeah, Matarion made some decks much worse. At least Galaxy became stronger because of Matarion. Exactly. A Galaxy player was trying Return last night to counter Matarion. It didn't work against me too well, but I don't know how it fared up to that point. Meta warping reminds me of birds. I mean, in a sense, it kind of is, right? But it's a weird one. It's a weird problem to solve, right? In my mind, the only thing that needs to change with Matarion, we just need to get rid of Type Change Beam. If we don't have to worry about Type Change Beam, the deck can do whatever else it wants. I don't care, right? You can use Star Restart to spam out your guys, to have a lot of consistency built in. You can, you can make multiple fusions in a turn. You can flip down my stuff with Victor Star and then pop up with Ashura Star. You can do anything else you want. That is completely fine. The only interaction that absolutely is toxic as fuck with Matarion is Ashura Star plus Type Change Beam. If you take away that interaction, the deck is fine. It is still a very, very strong deck. It's arguably still the best deck in the game, but it's not toxic. And that's what I want gone. I want the toxic part of the deck gone, but keep the rest of what makes the deck really cool, right? Whenever I see someone defending Type Change Beam, I'm always like, you either don't know what you're talking about, just straight up, like, I'm sorry, you do not understand how the meta works, or you're just defending the deck for, like, no reason. Like, it creates unfun environments. I think, personally, Matarion is a really cool card, a really cool deck. I think a lot of the stuff it does is really interesting. I think making Victor Star is really cool. You can use it to put pressure on your opponent by flipping their face down monsters face up, so you can always get in for some chip damage. You can use it to flip monsters face down to combo with Ashura Star, or just to attack over monsters that have high attack but low defense. A good example of this would be like Dragia Star, which is 3000 attack but only 2000 defense, so that's a really good thing to attack over with that. I think using Ashura Star just to pop face downs is just amazing. Like, just pop face down monsters, that's really good. Pop back row, that's really good. Combo of Victor Star, that's really good. I think messing with your opponent's graveyard is a bit niche, but still a really cool effect from Hercule Star. And I also think that if we use the effect of Laden Star, if we don't actually have access to the Ashura Star OTK line, suddenly Laden Star becomes a lot more valuable, because now we can actually use it to weaken your opponent's board, which does give it a bit more extra added use. Right now, Laden Star feels a little bit underwhelming, because I'm like, well, most of the time I'd rather just kill you rather than mess about with trying to get a little bit of extra damage in. I've made a concept of birds that should work. A concept of birds. Are we talking about I'm going to assume we're talking about Duel Links, because you've got to remember, when people say birds, people are always thinking of Duel Links, Rush Duel, I should say. People are always thinking of Lyrilusc whenever someone says birds. So yeah, that's my take, right? I think Mortarion is fine. Just get rid of the toxic OTK. Get rid of that. It's all fine. It's all Gucci. Like, Change Beam has to go. And I don't know how we get rid of it. I think if we limit 1 it, that's fine. But occasionally you are still just going to get OTK'd, which is, it's better than, you know, halving the amount that they have in their deck is still really good. I would rather see it banned, but I do understand Konami really don't like banning rush cards. It took us so long for them to ban a card in the physical game, even though arguably there were a few cards that should have been banned. So part of me feels like Konami just hate banning rush cards, and that's just a thing. But I would just like it gone. That's my take on that. So let's go and take a look at the tier list. So do we want to make any changes based on this? Unfortunately, we do not allow links to be posted. Missed a bad time, unfortunately, just because we do get a lot of bots that do like to spam links. Luckily, we haven't had any today. But first things first, I think this is the first thing that happens, right? Cyber Dragon I still think is a strong deck. I do not think, however, Cyber Dragon is realistically on Mortarion's level. What's the next thing that changes? This comes down. I think that goes without saying. I think realistically, these are the next best decks. Probably move this up. I think Psychic can stay. I think Psychic is a strong tier 2 deck. I think this is how I kind of see the meta right now. Like, these are the decks that really matter. Like, these tier 1, tier 2. Tier 3 starts to not matter as much. Like, these decks are still good, but, like, they start to fall off a bit. Realistically, I think we probably start doing something like this. The only issue with this is, like, suddenly a lot of this gets a bit wonky. Probably do something along these lines. It's hard. It's hard to come up with this. It's really hard. Limit 1 beam. Limit 2 Assurer, so they can't use Negate, so they can out-Assure in most cases. Limit the OTK odds. We play 2 anyway, so it won't change much. See, right, this might be a weird take for someone that's, like, just gone on, like, a massive rant about how much they don't like the Mortarion combo. I think Assure is fine. I don't mind Assure being at 3. I don't mind players having access to just make the guy that pops face downs all the time. I just don't like the... So it's a twofold issue, right? First off, just losing out of nowhere doesn't feel very good, right? No one likes getting OTK'd. Getting OTK'd kind of sucks. And 2, the way to play around... Do you allow links and whispers? Yeah, you can link. That's fine. You can ping me on Discord or on Twitch. That's completely fine. The way to play around Assura Star, and this is another thing that also, like, gets really weird for me, is people just be like, just play around it. It's fine. You can just don't summon 3 monsters in attack mode, and then you'll be fine. And it's like, on the surface level, that works, right? On a very, very surface level, sure. You know, you can make a Mirror Innovator. Mirror Innovator can just boost its attack up, attack over a defense position monster, get in for like 2,000 damage, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. Your opponent has to answer it at some point, and then you just deal with theirs, and then you go back to piercing over, etc., etc. And ideally, you don't die during that. Not every deck can do that. So this deck can do that. Galaxy doesn't really do that. Galaxy can kind of do that, but they have to use all of their resources to do so, and once they run out of their resources, they don't really do anything. Do we have an exclamation mark Discord in the server is the next question. We do! We have an exclamation mark Discord. Royal Rebel and Vulcan down, to be honest. Now, do you think they should be... Right, so now the question is, because I've moved this around a lot, do you think they should go down further than they currently are? Like, further down from 4? Losing out of nowhere sounds like Hearthstone. I do really like Hearthstone. I haven't played Hearthstone so long, but, like, I used to absolutely adore that game. So, yeah, there are some decks that can just, like, play around it, and there are others that can't. And I don't like Royal Rebels for the same reason. I do not like a deck that forces you to play in a specific way. Now again, a deck that plays its own game on its own axis, that's fine. A deck that forces you to play your deck differently, which now means you might have to play in a subpar way, feels really bad. And I just don't like that. I think it's very, like... I think it's the antithesis of what Rush is. So, like, in the same way I'm not really a big fan of Royal Rebels for the same reason. I don't like the Matarian... The way that it OTKs incentivizes you to try and play around it, and trying to play around it can feel like ass. I guess is my answer to that. What else are we looking at here? So we've got all of these decks already in here. It's like E-Hero and Light Machine are like the next best performing decks. Maybe we bump E-Hero back up just one tier. I think, for me, I do think Cyberse is falling off a little bit. I think Cyberse is in a bit of a weird spot where it has such low defense that a lot of decks can just play around it. Like, part of me feels like Hero can just defeat Cyberse very easily. Royal Rebels beats it very easily. Machines has, like, an okay matchup into it at the very least. I think Spellcasters has a good matchup into it. I think Psychic does. Dragons do. Galaxy especially do. Cyberse feels stronger than Royal Rebels, in my opinion, but it's not tier 3 worthy. I think that's a fair statement. Do I agree with it is the next question. Royal Rebels is a weird one because we have seen a couple of people bring it to tournaments. It has not been performing super, super great. On paper, I feel like Royal Rebels still has everything it needs to, like, perform well. But it hasn't been performing well. It's such a weird one. Vulcan tier 4 is wild. Why do you think Vulcan tier 4 is wild, Quantum? Where would you have it then? Bottom of tier 3? Because it was already bottom of tier 3 before. Tier 3 before. I mean, arguably, it's kind of down with... It's got similar results to Cyberse and then Dark Magician and Mutton. How does it out a Matarian? Wait, so you're saying it should be lower than tier 4? Well, how does it out a Matarian? You make the max and then you attack it. That's how it outs a max. That's how it outs a Matarian. It's untiered. It's a weird one. I don't know if I would put it, like, down with this, like, look at this stuff down here. Like, does Vulcan feel like it's literally down in this tier with the rest of this crap? And then you get OTK'd? Do you get OTK'd? Let me think about this. So if they use Matarian Ashura Star, they absorb your attack, they can only get in for 2,800 damage. So, like, even that's not an OTK. To be fair, they could just make a second dude. It depends how many resources they've got available. If you're attacking with your guy, with your big maximum, you're only going to kill one of their guys. So they're going to probably have 2 monsters, as well as the 5 cards they draw for turn, and whatever back row they've got. Vulcan was doing stuff before Matarian, but Matarian does counter it. Yeah, the more I'm thinking about it, the more I think you're right. But one thing I will say is as well, does a deck deserve to be untiered because it just loses to this deck? Like, do we not have to consider how it plays against all of the rest of this as well? Like, I get what you're saying. It has a horrid matchup into this. But, like, so does a lot of the decks here. Like, by that logic, Hero probably shouldn't be tier 3. But, like, Hero still has okay matchups into the rest of this. By the time Vulcan has maximum Matarian is set up. I mean, yeah, I think that's fair as well. Quantum just want to have it untiered so no one will expect it, and then he can kick asses and tourneys with it. I don't know because I haven't tried Vulcan. Vulcan is, like people are saying, I haven't played the Vulcan Matarian matchup, but after talking, you know, to chat, after talking to Quantum here, and after thinking about it, I would say yes, this seems like it's completely dead into Matarian, right? Like, Sidra is not even good. Now. Alright. Okay, I was going to say, if we were just going to leave that statement on the table, I was going to have to break that down. Yeah. I don't know. Do we think it's that bad? Because again, Vulcan, like, I mean, it's on here, but you know, what does that even actually mean, right? Like, it's gotten top 4 spots twice. Woo! How do we feel like it plays into the current metagame? I think Light Machine is tier 4, Cyberse is tier 3. Oh, I don't agree with that at all. I think Light Machine is a lot better than Cyberse right now in the current meta. Vulcan tier 4, Hero tier 4 too. They're good. The meta is stacked against them at the moment. They need so much to go right just to even play. I don't like. Right, this is my take. Cyberse is kind of shit right now. Is kind of how I look at it. I feel like Cyberse has such low defense, and there is so much piercing going around that Cyberse gets bullied by everyone. I think Cyberse's current claim to fame is that they can just drop the maximum, and the maximum is still really good. Other than that, I don't rate Cyberse right now. I feel like there's a lot of decks that absolutely destroy it. Then one that comes to mind is Galaxy. Like, how the hell does this deck play against Light Galaxy? Also, it's a deck that, again, has to go wide, so it's going to get absolutely punished by Metarion. I don't like that you didn't put Thunder on here. I mean, it would just consider it down here and untiered. Did Vulcan get both top 4s before UO was released? Let's take a look, shall we? So there's one, so that's a yes. Yes, both of them did. So in the same way that we've seen Heroes dropping, it means that Vulcan's been dropping as well. Okay, well, we're going to drop Vulcan down then. I think there's enough people in chat agreeing that it would just be stubborn for me to not. Volk ban. Right, Ray just wants it banned, just straight up. Ah, it's a weird one. Cyberse is in such a weird spot for me. It's like, also, I noticed nobody's talking about this deck as well. I mean, I guess this deck is kind of just this deck. Like, they're both very similar. Cyberse at least has good matchups. I think that's fair. I think Cyberse probably has an okay matchup into Cyber Dragons. It'll have an okay matchup into Dragons, depending on how the game goes. It can have an okay matchup into Psychic. It probably has a pretty good matchup into Spellcasters. Well, I suppose unless it goes on the defensive, and then obviously you get to absolutely bully them with Witch Piercing. Yami Ruler not tier 0. Disgraceful. Cyberse Monarchs is pretty decent. That is so far down my tier list that is not even being registered. Cyberse plays well into Metarion. They can out the fusions with the skill. And any bosses... Sure, Beam punishes it, but Beam punishes everything at this point. The max, although I think is total bullshit, will come up, and when it does, it makes most decks invest a lot. You know what? We'll do this then. How does everyone feel about this? Does this suit everyone's tastes? I do think there are some strong points here, right? You don't have to summon Max against Metarion unless you go for game. It's one of those things, though, where I feel like there are just so many things now that can punish Cyberse. I think Cyberse has already started to see a bit of a decline, because we're still seeing it played a lot. But, like, again, it's just not getting the results it was getting. And it's not just because everyone stopped playing Cyberse. There is still a decent chunk of people bringing Cyberse to these events. They're just getting knocked out very quickly. Now, again, just looking at tournament results is not the be-all end-all. But I suppose that's what a tier 3 deck is, right? It has some really good matchups. It has some really, really bad matchups. Everyone just plays TSA, though. So, to be fair, some decks can't afford to play TSA, right? Realistically, this deck ain't playing TSA. This deck ain't playing TSA. This deck's maybe playing one TSA. This deck's maybe playing one TSA. Like, a lot of these decks just can't afford to fit it in And this is something we did predict was going to happen when we saw that Fusion was coming. A lot of the Fusion decks and decks that are very spell reliant can't just fit like 12 spells into their deck. That's just not happening. So something's got to go, and it turns out TSA is the thing that can go. Once we get Celestial Yami Ruler, it's going to shoot up the tier list. Yeah, Yami Tarasu is... I mean, it's a floodgate. But it is really good at what it does. A lot of decks have taken out the max outs for combo or consistency pieces. Not all decks are on tools, but most of them. Yes. Alright, let's put it this way then. Does anyone have any massive, and we're talking like that is in completely the wrong tier, opinions about this list as it is now? So I'm more than willing to discuss it. We have an open forum here. If anyone has anything that they dislike about this list, we can go through it. We can talk about it. We've already made some changes based on feedback. Let's see if there's any others. I think it goes without saying these are like two of the best decks. There is maybe an argument for like moving this up a tier, but this deck is extraordinarily volatile. It feels a lot like Psychic in that way, where if Galaxy draws like a good hand, it just pops off. If it doesn't draw a good hand, it's really bad. And if it gets hampered in what it's trying to do, if it's like goes for a push and then gets stopped, it feels really bad. Maybe Heroes is better, but the results are not there. Heroes is one of those decks that has some fantastic matchups and some horrific matchups. Maybe Royal Rebel, hard to say. On paper, it's better than ever. Not seeing much play. Yes, Royal Rebels does have a couple of issues going for it. So, for example, if your opponent is playing very few monsters, or like not wanting to have too many monsters face up on the field, now your heavy metal is not as useful, right? If you can pop one of their non-fusions and then attack with the heavy metal, sure, that's great. But if your opponent just got a fusion monster face up, you now can't do anything to that with heavy metal. So you're entirely reliant on Doom. And Doom is still like absolutely fantastic. Doom's never going to be bad, right? Especially with the skill. But Doom will not be live all the time. You're not always going to have all the material to get it out. You're not always just going to have Doom in hand, right? That's the issue I see with it. I feel like tier 4 is just there that there's not enough representation. Yeah. I think so as well, personally. That's why I got it there. But Hero's not that good. I've seen Icy struggle with them. Well, as long as Icy's dueling... That's like saying, like, whenever I do anything in speed, that will affect your opinion on it, right? Like, I'm not a speed player. Realistically, you shouldn't listen to my opinions on speed at all, really. Yeah, a few decks may move up or down one tier, but it looks fine. People say Gavin is bad, but he only loses to Yuga and the Millennium Dude. Go his siblings. He beats everyone else faces until you include Nail's Draw. Yeah, I think a lot of the people he beats are kind of nobodies, and I think that kind of goes against him a little bit. Problem with Heroes is even if Beam gets banned, they lose to Metarian still the same. There is an argument, though, for if Metarian does get hit, that Metarian maybe slips down a little bit. Because we might be saying, oh yeah, Metarian does a lot of stuff without the OTK. That's fine and dandy. We haven't seen what that is yet, because everyone's playing the OTK. So its win rate will naturally be inflated by the fact you have an OTK built in. So we might see Metarian slip down a bit if they lose type change boom, right? Now, is that even going to happen? Probably not. I don't think they're going to hit it. So, plus all new players don't know how to play against it. That's also absolutely true. You were struggling with them too. I mean, I don't know what that's a reference to specifically. If it's talking to like, oh, when we were playing, man, that first day, that was a doozy. Yesterday, I was clapping all the Metarian with Heroes, but I lost hard when I faced Earthbound Metarian in the Rush Weekly. I wish I could have seen some of those games on them, because I'd really like to have seen like the back and forth there. It's one of those things as well where not all Metarian players are the best. Like today, we played against a Metarian player on ladder who threw lethal twice. We still lost the game, but he had lethal twice. The VOD is there. I was actually on... Okay, well, we'll take a look at that. We're probably going to take a look at that now, but I'll look at that in the future. When I tried Royal Rebels in some games, I usually kept getting overwhelmed by my opponents. So even when I eventually drew Doom Metal or the other bosses, I couldn't come back. Every time I see people play against, they pray for the pieces and they are burned. So let's have a quick peek now. Let's go and take a look at Monosync. So I would like to see. I would like to see what we did to take down the heroes. So let's hop over to here. Be gone. Right, let's mute this for now. Let's try and dart around and see if we can find. Oh, look at that! It's quantum cubes. All right, let's check this out. So this is literally Metarian versus heroes. Now, I believe that only Bismuth, I want to say, it was some big name, was playing the Earthbounds. And Earthbound, by the way, is something that a lot of people have been talking about for a long time. I haven't actually seen anyone actually play it yet. Okay, so we make Laden Star. You can fast forward the VOD. We probably should do that, realistically. I was just hoping that the play would be faster. So we had the negate attack. I mean, that doesn't really change anything. We would have lost, like, 18, right? So, like... Let's see. I don't want to, like, miss anything is the issue. We discard, flip up the Fortitude, reduce the attack down to 15, get back the fusion, summon out the other ether, fuse them into the Fast Striker, use its effect, boost its attack up to 3,000. So that's 1,500 on board at the moment. Set, and then 2 more back row, so we can just clap over that. This is a warrior monster, I think. I actually can't remember if Ether Fast Striker is a warrior. Barrage of Steel. We hit an Earthbound. My stream crashed midstream. I guess it messed up the layout. Just wanted to keep the back row pop guy because he had delay. I mean, that makes sense. So we activate the star restart. Bring that back. Grab back the fusion. Activate the fusion, so we know we have a fusion in hand. We're going to make Ashura Star. Now, which Ashura Star effect are we using here? I really cannot remember if Fast Striker is a warrior machine. Activate the effect. So it is a warrior. Okay, so we do get to boost up to 52. Put a card back. Let me just start messing with our opponent's graveyard. I'm only going to put 1 back. So we can get in for what, 28? And that's it. We know that the only thing that Quantum could activate here would be another Earthbound. He does have the Earthbound, which is really good. Earthbound is a really good counter to Metarian. There aren't that many decks that can actually use it. Obviously, heroes don't have any limit 3s, neither do Metarian themselves, so we have started to see Metarian themselves start to run Call of the Earthbound. And again, the reason they're playing it isn't to deal with... Alright, the reason Metarian are playing it isn't because they need it for anything other than exactly Metarian Ashura Star OTK. That is the only reason. Now, heroes at least have a, you know, it's always live, right? They will always be able to Ashura Star OTK me because I'm playing warriors. So they at least get to be like, well, this is a no-brainer. I should be playing this. Down to 11. So 1 back row. We know that that back row cannot be anything that would stop an... I suppose actually it could just be the 3rd Earthbound, if that is the 3rd Earthbound. So what we've learned from this replay is Call of the Earthbound is a really good card. That seems to be what we're learning here. Just going to mess with the graveyard again. Boost it up. Call of the Earthbound. Yeah, we have learned Call of the Earthbound is really good. Is that the Crash 1 OST? Yes, it is. Well recognized, Ray. Yeah, that's how I beat all Metarian. I mean, yes, it's perfect, right? my question then is, how good is it into non-Metarian decks? Did you play against a non-Metarian on stream? Unlimit Call of the Earthbound? I mean, arguably yes, if we're being honest. I beat Meek-chan, lost to Sidra. Because that's where I think it gets weird. Because I don't know how good Call of the Earthbound is into I'm just going to attack you with one big guy decks. Like, maybe it's okay into Dragon Fusion, but Dragon Fusion is just going to make a big double attacking piercer anyway, so no matter where you redirect it, you're still going to be taking a lot of damage. It would be really good against Spellcasters, because Spellcasters just make one big guy. Arguably, it could be good against Galaxy, because, you know, the way that Galaxy play, they're basically going to get all their damage in with a piercing attack from their one big guy, and then they'll probably change another guy to attack. So you can just make the piercing go on the attack mode guy, and then you save yourself from taking that piercing and then an extra hit on top. So arguably it'd be pretty good there. Protecting the Flame Wingman is always good. Oh yeah, Call of the Earthbound can be unlimit. The only issue is we have so few defensive options right now that Call of the Earthbound ends up being a really, really good one. So it comes down to, do we want decks that are playing Limit 3s to also have access to Call of the Earthbound? Like, maybe that would be fine. Maybe it wouldn't. More importantly, if Metarian player is using proactive back row removal rather than reactive back row, Earthbound loses a lot of value. I mean, it depends, right? Because if your back row is, let's say you're playing 3 Earthbound and a negate attack. Now, if you can find 2 of those, or 3 of those 4 cards, you're in a really good position, right? So, like, I think it really does depend. That does make me reconsider Hero. But, like, alright, I'll tell you what, just for Quantum, we're going to bump this out. I think these can just stay as their only ones in tier 4. I think this is fine, though. I don't think I'd want to change anything else. So we scared of Dragius and Noodles. Right, so, I mean, if we go through it, right? This doesn't have any limit 3s. This does. This does. This does. This does. This kind of does. It doesn't, but it kind of does. This does. This does. This doesn't. This does, right? A lot of this does have limit 3s already. Galaxy can just attack the attack position monster first, keep the piercing, but I guess it can mess up their plan a bit. I suppose at that point, though, you can also just redirect that attack on the attack position to a defense position monster. And especially if you've only got 2 monsters, that would play around it perfectly, because it basically gets the same result. If you've got 3 monsters, though, again, you redirect it, then they still get to attack the attack position, and they still get the piercing on the defense mode. But yeah. Yesterday, I saw Spellcaster using Earthbound. That's not too surprising. I mean, like we say, it's good, right? Although I do think Spellcaster is down in tier 3. I do not think it's performing as well as the decks above it, but I do think it's like still a really strong deck. So the next thing we want to do is take a look at this. So this is basically people using the tools to stop the OTK Magnum does, but for Metarian. Yes, the downside is that all of those tools are now limit 3, right? We used to be able to play Earthbound plus Negate plus Majesty. Now we can't play all of those, right? We got to pick and choose. King's Majesty next to come back. Again, there's no point in playing King's Majesty if we could play Earthbound, right? So this is a tier list. This is the updated one from Ra. So to anyone that doesn't know, Ra is a relatively strong player over in Japan. He plays in the Angel Cup constantly. He plays in a lot of point battles. He plays for Rush Japan Red in Duelist Coliseum. So this is his updated tier list. So we're seeing Light Galaxy in top tier. We're seeing Metarian now in top tier. We're seeing Dragon Fusion as a solo A tier. Then we're seeing, again, for anyone that doesn't know, Ra is basically a Cyburst one-trick. He just plays nothing but Cyburst all the time. So naturally, we're going to see his pet deck a little bit higher than maybe other people would put it. But just know he's put it in B, along with Cyber Dragons. And then we've got Psychic, Spellcaster, Machines, and Heroes in C tier. So this is his tier. So if we just flick back and forth between ours, we can see there are some quite big differences. But we generally agree that the strongest decks are these. Now, obviously, he hasn't really mentioned these, so I guess for us, you would like cut it off at like tier 3, right? In order to do like a comparison. It's interesting that they've got this like this. It's my fave tomato. Hello, Cyclone Valley. Welcome, welcome. No point in playing Majesty if your deck isn't allowed to play Fiends. Exactly. Sidra is a big difference. Yes, Cyber Dragon over there is really not doing very much, which is interesting because Cyber Dragon I still think is like a relatively strong deck. The biggest hindrance that Cyber Dragon has right now, in my opinion, is, again, in order to win, you have to go wide. Like, whenever you have double attacking as your primary way to get in, so like double attack Pierce is a little bit different, but when it's just double attacking, you have to go wide, right? You have to get 3 guys out on the field. They have to be face up. They have to be attacking, and you're going to get into like 2,800 damage each turn. Metarion gets to punish you with their OTK. So as long as Metarian's doing very, very well, Sidra, in my opinion, is always going to be slipping down a little bit. So it's a weird one. Because I also think, theoretically, and again, I haven't played the matchup an absolute ton. I've played it a bit. But theoretically, the Light Galaxy deck doesn't have like a crazy strong matchup into Cyber Dragons. Now, don't get me wrong. I still think Cyber Dragons are probably not favored in that matchup. I still think the Light Galaxy deck is really, really good. But I don't think it is as bad as some people might think. Like, a lot of the boss monsters you make in this deck have relatively decent defense values, so they can't just get pierced over and you can't just get like cheesed out of the game. Now, there is maybe something to be said about the Galactica Force version of the deck, which can just get really big. Monster Hunter FU? What's the FU part of it? Japan doesn't care about nostalgia. I mean, apparently not. But I just wanted to show this off. This is kind of a Freedom Unite. So this song is called Proof of the Hero, and this is from Monster Hunter World. But I don't know what Freedom Unite is. How do I not know what Freedom Unite is? Oh, it's the PSP one. I never played PSP, so I don't have a PSP. I never have one. I think it's kind of depends who opens better in Galaxy versus Sidra matchup. To be fair, Galaxy is in a weird spot where it always is going to... If Galaxy doesn't open well on like turn 1, turn 2, Galaxy I feel like is always playing from behind. It really wants to win the game very, very, very quickly. And if it doesn't win in the first few turns, then it just feels like, oh, I'm just going to slowly lose the game now. Like, it's a very weird deck. Because when you run out of gas with that deck, you're not getting that gas back, right? You're kind of spent. 2009 PSP game. It's from World, though. Olj. I think Zuijo Duel Links theme has been leaked online. Yeah, I think we have seen that somewhere. So this is another thing I want to talk about. So this is 8mm Apple. So this is a guy that basically his opinions in the Japanese Rush community are always quite respected. He has quite a good voice. He is also the caster for the Angel Cup. So for anyone that doesn't know who this guy is. And he's saying Metallion's influence is obviously too high. The adoption rate of slime has decreased. So he's basically saying people are playing less slime now because specifically against Metarion, it doesn't help out that much. There has been an increase in back row removal. There has been an increase in decks that remove back row removal and play before the opponent. All of these decks have been built with Metarion in mind. So this, in my opinion, sums up the meta quite well, which is Metarion is so important to the meta. It's warping the meta around itself. I really hope when they add London to Duel Links, he has a Cockney accent. Well, I don't even know what London's English name's going to be. It might not even be London. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, this is, to me again, this kind of sums it up, right? Metarion is warping the game around itself. And to me, at the very least, the biggest offender of that is still Type Change Beam. If Type Change Beam didn't exist and the OTK wasn't a thing, Metarion would, again, it would still be good. It would still be strong. It might even still be the best deck. It wouldn't be toxic, and it wouldn't warp everything around itself. But I think because exactly people are like, well, I have to play around this OTK, people are building their decks differently. People are playing the games differently. Like they're being forced to warp around this one deck, and I never think that's like particularly healthy. So now we can look at this one. So Metarion is an underpowered deck. If you don't find Fusion, you can't even play the game. Type Change Beam isn't that good anyway, and we need to nerf the real OP decks like Sidra and Galaxy. So I think this pretty much speaks for itself, right? Metarion needs to change in some way. How we actually do that, how we actually go about changing it, is completely up for debate. I think as we are right now, Metarion is promoting like a really unhealthy game state. Someone really hate Manakist. Listen, right? I think Manakist is on the same page as everyone else. I think Manakist wants Type Change Beam hit, personally. Like, Manakist is not sat here defending Type Change Beam. He's defending the deck in general, right? Yeah, I think Manakist is a very level-headed guy. The issue is once something new comes out, next box Metarion will fall off. It's good for now, but it can be defeated with the cards. So this goes back to another point that I actually want to bring up. And that is the game too fast now? Right? Is Rush Duel Links too aggressive? Do we have too many decks that can win the game very, very quickly? We have too many OTKs. We have a couple of decks that can just get super hyper aggressive and win in a few turns. And why is that? So obviously we just got some new fusions, and some of these are going to be pretty self-explanatory, right? This is an OTK. This deck makes a massive board out of practically nothing and can make a giant double attacker. This deck summons 32s with piercing that can also change your guys to attack, right? This one is a double attacking piercing monster. This, if it gets enough cards and gets the right cards, can just get rid of your entire board and then attack you directly for like 10,000 damage. Doesn't give a shit. Now, this one is a bit more volatile. Sometimes it just won't get to do that, but it can do that. This deck makes one giant guy and can slam in and can sometimes give that piercing, and it can end game sometimes. This one's probably fine, but it still has the same thing it's always done. It can get big or it can pierce. This deck's probably fine as well. This one can be explosive. Like, if you're able to use like a Siesta Torero maybe, Chainsink to defense, Piercing Samurai, attack over something, you could do like 5,000-ish damage, but realistically I think Heroes is probably fine. This is a pain in the ass, but the point is, there are a lot of cards which can end the game very, very, very quickly, and we don't really have the tools able to protect ourselves, right? Now, Rush's game style is faster, and we've used skills to make that even faster, which makes the cards that were good, if now just always be good when they're used. I think that is a very, very good point. There's lots of things to know about the current format. We have 2,000 less life points than the cards were intended to be played with. We have skills that do accelerate the game because they make things a lot more consistent. They make cards that maybe weren't as good now very, very good. We also have... we have an issue of having 30 card decks, which does mean decks that used to be inconsistent and therefore wouldn't really get to do anything now get to do that thing a lot more, which does naturally make them stronger. As well as we also are lacking a lot of the back row tools that we had in the OCG, right? So by this point, this is just a little list of cards I made. This is not everything, and this does skip over some stuff specifically, but there are a lot of cards that we had access to in OCG by the time fusions were released that we don't have access to here that do stop fusions. So the big one, Dark Revelation. Everyone knows Dark Revelation, but let's go and grab it up. Let's grab up the cards. So Dark Revelation. Everyone knows Dark Revelation by now. It's Mirror Force, right? In fact, should we change this around a little bit? That probably makes sense. Let's try this. Nope, not that one. There we go. That'll be a little bit nicer. So, Dark Revelation. Mirror Force if you're playing spellcasters. Now, obviously, if you had Mirror Force in your deck 3 times, you probably wouldn't care about people making these big, strong fusion monsters as much, because if they invest into a fusion monster, then they get hit with a Mirror Force. Oh, you've just wasted all those cards, right? So, arguably, it's good that this card isn't in the game, but just note, this is a card that would stop you from just getting OTK'd by fusion monsters, right? I hope Meek-chan gets a Ready Shine skill before Gohar. I would love for Meek to get a skill. I do, however, think that because of how we've seen things go in the past, if Meek doesn't have a skill now, I am doubtful she'll ever get a skill. That makes me sad. I would really like to get it, but I don't know if we're going to. So next up, we're going to talk about Vengeful Dragon. So Vengeful Dragon's counterattack. Again, this card came out at the exact same time as Dark Revelation. So this is a card that dragons could have had from the very start, right? When a dragon-type monster on your field is destroyed by an opponent's attack, send 1 card from your hand to the graveyard, destroy 1 monster on your opponent's field. Now, this isn't going to stop, for example, a Metarian OTK, and specifically the Metarians especially are going to change it into not being a dragon, so this wouldn't work against that specifically, but against everything else, this would still be really good. Against, for example, Dragiastar F, this is perfect, right? You'll take 1 good slap, and then you'll say, no, go away, Dragiastar, which I think is pretty cool. Isn't there a skill called Tempest, something that works for Beasts? There is, but it's not very good, and it specifically locks you into playing Beasts and Spellcasters, and has to play around Road Magic Tempest, which is a little bit awkward. Does it count as the type on the field? It has to be the field. So next up, we're going to take a look at... This card's a little bit weird, but does, like, if you squint at it, do what you need it to do. So this is Rebel Scream. So when your opponent normal summons a monster, you can send 2 Fiend-type monsters from your hand to the graveyard to destroy or face up level 8 and lower. Now, I hear what you're saying. Level 8 and lower, but that doesn't work on fusions because they're mostly level 9. It's like, you are right, but when your opponent summons out their second fusion material, you flip this over, right? So this is also quite balanced in that if you don't use it, you've just left 2 Fiends in your hand for no reason, which is kind of bad. We need more battle position changing traps, and yes, we are about to get to them as well. So King's Majesty is another one on my list because it was at 3 copies. Obviously, we don't have 3 copies, but there is that. So this one's a bit weird, but it is noticeable. So when an opponent's monster declares an attack targeting your face-up worm-type monster on your field, you can send a level 6 or lower worm monster from your hand to the graveyard. The attacking monster loses attack equal to the attack of the monster sent to the graveyard. So a lot of the time, this will kill a fusion monster. It won't always, but at the very least, it should keep you alive, right? So there is that as well. Then we're going to get onto a Beast Gear card. I know how much everyone here loves Beast Gear. So, Beast Gear Secret Arc Primal Fist. When an opponent's monster declares an attack targeting your face-up level 7 to 9 Beast Warrior, Fiend, or Machine-type monster, again, this won't work on specifically Ashura Star, but it does work on, you know, not things that are changing your type. Change the attacking monster to face-up defense position. Then if you changed a Dragon, Spellcaster, or Fairy to defense position plus effect, you destroy a spell trap on the opponent's field. Alright, rehydrated. So now... Oh, didn't mean to do that. So next up, we're going to take a look at Battle Demotion. So another trap card. You can't see it super clearly, but when an opponent's monster declares an attack on a face-up machine-type monster, pay 600 life points, change 1 attack position monster on your opponent's field to defense position. So once again, change it to defense, right? We don't have to just pop the monsters, but we can change their battle positions, like Manica said. So there is that, right? Then we go to Shadow Flower cards. What's the easiest way to do this? Let's filter this by trap, because then we can have both of them on the screen at the same time. So then we have Shadow Flower Return. When an opponent's monster declares a direct attack, so again, only for direct attacks, but still, we can shuffle 3 plant-type monsters from our graveyard into the deck, destroy the attacking monster. Then if you destroy the monster by its effect, you can special summon 1 plant-type monster from your graveyard to your field in face-up attack position. Pretty good. And then we have Flower Shadow or Shadow Flower Stance. When an opponent's monster declares an attack targeting your face-up plant-type monster, place 2 plant-type monsters from your graveyard on the bottom of the deck. Change all attack position monsters on your opponent's field to face-up defense position. Basically, there are so many traps. And again, this isn't all of them. This is just the ones that almost guaranteed will stop a fusion monster, right? But there are so many trap cards that will stop fusions, and we just have barely any of them. We basically just have Call of the Earthbound, right? What are we up to today, Tomato? Hello, Desmube. We are currently talking about the meta. We've just gone over our tier list updates. We've been talking about all the different bits and bobs going on. And we're currently talking about, is the meta too fast? And why is it too fast? If it is too fast. In my opinion, I think the meta is a little bit too quick. And we lack defensive options to be able to better insulate ourselves from just getting blown out of the game very, very quickly. In my opinion, the best games of Yu-Gi-Oh! Are... Yeah, Type Change Beam messes with a lot of these. Exactly. That's my next point, Shari, right? No matter if we had all of these things, Type Change Beam is still an issue. So I want Type Change Beam gone. Because again, then we can actually play the game. The fact it turns off almost all of these cards is so, so silly. In my opinion. Again, the most overpowered ones, they don't care, right? Like, if we go back to, like, Dark Revelation. Wait, you don't care if you guys are. You just have spellcasters in the graveyard. That's fine. But do we want every single player in this game having 3 Mirror Force? Probably not yet. In the future, sure. Probably not yet. So, my point is, in the OCG, which again is where all these cards were designed to be played, we had 2,000 more life points, which did insulate us a bit more. We had a bunch more back row that could protect us from just getting OTK'd, right? All those traps we're seeing are type specific. Rush lacks generic stuff, which is not legend. I don't get this Konami decision. I mean, you are 100% correct. Now, to be fair, I like there being less generic stuff. I do like that. Because it means you can have different flavors of different types of traps and spells and monster effects for all the different decks. However, that only works if Konami supports all of its types equally, which they do not. Some of these types in the game just do not have access to a Dark Revelation. Some of them do. Now you could argue, okay, so it's a balancing mechanism. Spellcasters are meant to be a little bit weaker, so we give them Mirror Force. And it's like, on paper, yes, that is what the goal was at the start. But they were only really weaker than dragons, right? In a straight-up 1v1, dragons were better than spellcasters. So Dark Revelation then made spellcasters better than dragons. And then everything else that came out after was kind of weaker until, like, machines came out. So it was a bit weird how they did it. But, like, even now, we still don't have good traps for every single type. So Konami's kind of like, okay, well then rather than making some types stronger by giving them all of their cool support, we just won't give anyone any of their support. Which, like, is a really weird way to balance the game, but that's how we've got it in Duel Links right now. We just have a lot of type-specific cards just not in the game. Which is weird. It is weird. It is very weird. But that is the world that we currently live in. I mean, I think that's kind of it for that. The other thing I did want to talk about is this. Look at this limit restricted list. Look at this. This is so ridiculous, right? We have our limit ones. We should probably go back to the other screen as well. If we do that. So we have our limit ones. Barely any. Do any of these matter, right? Does anyone in chat, would you play any of these limit 1 cards with any of these other limit 1 cards? Like, realistically. Scat Thief genuinely could be reasonable at 1 to 2, except Metarian again. Kind of. Scat Thief only stops level 8 and lower damage, though, so, like, the fusions are still going to get all their shit in. There are a lot of good generic traps in Rush. We were only looking at the ones that were released before fusions, though. That's why we were specifically looking at those ones. The skills make the stat-changing cards that don't change by 1,000 not worth playing. Exactly. All the 500 ones are so bad. So bad. But yeah, I don't really get why these are limit 1. Limit 2, I kind of get these. Does Meet and Greed need to be limit 2'd? Like, does that need to be it? Fortitude could be annoying at 2, but fine. 3 probably too much. kind of. I don't even really rate Fortitude that highly personally. Like, I don't think it's bad, but I don't think it's like crazy good. I think, and a lot of, I don't even think I could fit 3 into a deck. Unlimit Meet and Breed right now, Konami. I mean, what do we think about the rest of these? Do these all still need to be on here? Do we think, right, this might be a hot take. Can Negate Attack, Attribute, and Aim Eagle come off of Limit 2? Have we gone past the point of needing these limited? Or at the very least, Attribute and Eagle. Do these cards still need to be limited, do we think? Maybe even Seahorse Carrier. Does Seahorse Carrier still need to be limit 2? Free Hydron. Hey, Tomato, what are you doing? We're currently taking a look at the limit list and seeing if there's anything we would take off of it. Burst Stream could be OP if we have more copies in limit 1. So the thing with Burst Stream is we only have 1 copy. So it being limited 1 basically stops us from using Shield and Sword. Is that Giorfio with the follow? Thank you so much, buddy. Burst Stream, yeah, but it's one of those weird things. Right now, Burst Stream basically says you're not allowed to play it with Shield and Sword. That's kind of it. Like, I guess you could make the argument that now you can't play Dragon's Fortitude and Blue Eyes if they were like super worried about it. Seahorse should be free. I mean, I agree with that as well. Seahorse should be released, right? Realistically, let Aquas just have their guy. Like, come on, Konami. What are we doing here? Jamp Check is the only card in here that I'm like, Jamp Check is really scary. So we did see in Monosync's skillless tournaments, back when Monosync ran really, really cool tournaments. I still remember Monosync. I still remember the skillless tournaments. They were awesome. But Jamp Check at 3 is kind of disgusting. Even at 2, it's really good. So at 3, it could be too much, at least in my opinion. Seahorse should be free. Tomato Sessor. Thunder Gazelle. Why is it 3 times, though? It's not really seen played at all. It is actually seeing some play in Spellcasters. That's where it's been seeing play for a while now. Eagle should be, because it outs bosses too easily. Seahorse can be limit 3. Check should be 2. Hydron 2. I think Negate shouldn't be limited at all. I mean, we know why Negate's limited. It's basically to stop you playing it with other stuff. So the question is, do you want Psychics to be playing Negate Attack? That would be the only reason to leave it here. Otherwise, it doesn't matter, right? Jamp Check too strong. Jamp Check should stay. Shining City should be freed as well. No one uses it. I mean, we haven't got to the limit 3s yet. I suppose we'll go over there now. So I am fine with all of the maximums staying at limit 3. The reason being that in the OCG, maximums would be mashed together into just maximum good stuff decks. So I think that's fine. Negate should be limit 3, so maximums can't play it. So the downside to that, well, is now you can't play it in Cyber Dragons. You can't play it in Galaxy. You can't play it in Dragons. I guess arguably, is there a limit 3 in Psychic? There is, right? There's, something. I'm having a brain fart moment. We can play it here. We can't play it here. We can't play it here. We can play it here. We can't play it here. Melody. Oh, is Melody limit 3? That's just my brain just like lagging behind here. But yeah, I'm fine with the maximums being limited. That's fine with me. Heavy Metal? Sure. I think the deck should have a limit 3. You could maybe move it over to... Nah, realistically, it has to be Heavy Metal, because Heavy Metal is the most, like, splashable in other decks. Unlimit those except Dragius. Why, at that point, just unlimit Dragius, mate. That's what I'm saying. Yami Ruler? Does Yami Ruler still need to be limited? What is... So, the logic of limiting Yami Ruler was that they didn't want us playing Dragius plus Yami Ruler piles early in the game. No one would splash Heavy Metal, lol. It depends. Like, there would... Right, just think about this, right? Think about a good stuff list where you just drop Cyber Dragon tribute for Heavy Metal. It could happen. It could happen. And it could randomly be okay, right? We don't know. I'm not saying it would just automatically be good. I'm saying people would do it. Good stuff is trash? I mean, kind of. To be fair, good stuff hasn't seen a lot of success in Duel Links for a while now. But in the OCG, good stuff was like really good. In fact, you could make an argument that a lot of the best decks were just good stuff for the longest time. Unlimit Yami Ruler and see if it changes anything, in my opinion. I mean, yeah, we could do. Swift Gaia should be 3 times the ability to normal summon Gaia without tribute is OP, especially in mid-game. Yami Fusions decide if it should be limited. Free Gaia. Free Gaia! Yes, I mean, that is the next point, right? If the Yami Ruler fusions, if we get Yami Tarasu in the next box, for example, if the deck becomes good, I still want the deck to have a limit 3. And Yami Ruler just makes the most sense. So I would probably leave Yami Ruler as limit 3, but just give it its fusion already, right? Just get it out so it makes sense for it to still be... Because right now, I don't really see a point for this to be limit 3. But like, again, when it gets its fusion, I want that deck to have a limit 3. To be honest, most limit 3s don't really make sense, but the decks are not even hurt by them. I mean, yeah, for the most part, that's true. That Magician from Structure deck can be special summoned, could be at 3-2, to be honest. So Dark Sword Magician, who I assume is who we're talking about here, is... I mean, realistically, this is fine. Like, who's going to be splashing Dark Sword Magician? Like, it's cool that you can get it out cheap, right? If your opponent's got a lot of bosses on the field, you can just get this out. Does it need to be limit 3? Probably not. Realistically. Then there's like Ace Breaker. Does Ace Breaker need to be limit 3? Especially Spark Heart's Girl. Yeah, Spark Heart's Girl especially, right? Just get rid of... I don't understand why Spark Heart's Girl is limit 3. What ended up happening was people just don't play it. Because it's bad. And there's better fire slots that you could have. It's just weird. Well, okay, for generic cards, it's just stupid. I mean, exactly. So Ultimate Flag Mech Acebreaker, I think it's probably fine. Necromancer can be unlimited 2, 2 specific, Dark Sword unlimit, Shock unlimit, Acebreaker unlimit. So Shock, I think, is the only one that I would pause there. Shock can do really good. Phoenix, I dare say, can go to limit 2. We could play it in more Dragon strats. That is another good point. Realistically, does Phoenix Dragon need to be on this list anymore? Because, like, it could be really good if we unlimit it. And that might be too much. But I kind of like the idea of moving it to limit 2 for a bit. Because then at least, like, you could even... Because if you left Negate Attack there as well, you basically say you're playing 1, right? You're going to be playing, like, 1 Phoenix Dragon, 1 Negate, or 2 Phoenix Dragons, no Negate. Most decks have that one random boss at 3, and they don't need any other limit 3s. I mean, that's the whole point, right? It's just to say, please don't play any of the staples. And then, like, there just aren't really many staples. Monarch, why is it 3 times when only Blue Eyes uses it? It's like a precaution, right? Dragius with 5 Dragius. Dragius F with 3 Phoenix. So the downside... So there's positives and negatives there, right? So the downside... For the Dragius deck themselves, is you still have to actually get the Dragius into the graveyard. So if they're at the bottom of your deck, it doesn't matter. The positives would be that you now have easier access to your Dragius, because without Dragius, your deck doesn't really do anything, right? The Dragon deck without Dragius is a bit mid. So it would theoretically speed up the deck a little bit, but you're only realistically going to be fusing twice, maybe 3 times over the course of the game. So rather than thinking of it like, oh, you have 5 Dragius, I would look at it more as though you will now do your combo quicker and you won't have to stall for as long. I don't think most of the time you're going to be just spamming out a Dragius, but I could be wrong, right? Maybe you would just play it that way. Maybe you would just spam out Dragius, right? So that's that cover. Thunder Gazelle. Thunder Gazelle's like generic, right? If you could play it in every deck, you might just play it as like a 1 or a 2 of, like maybe. If your deck is nothing without Dragius, you don't deserve Dragius. That is a good reference. Why is this guy? In fact, we can zoom in rather than having everyone squint. There we go. Why is that guy still on this list? What has he done? Why, Konami? Why do you hate Beast Gears? Why is he here? Beast Gear Bros. He's not. Oh, did he get removed from the list? Okay, in which case, why was he here? Right, let's just pretend he's not there. Why was he on the list? Oh, I do not understand. I do not understand at all. Alright, Shining City Knights. Why is Shining City Knights on this list? Now, I kind of got it at the start, right? Back when it's like, oh, you don't want your Dragius to be 27, and, oh, you know, you don't want Royal Rebels, which were the best deck at 2 separate times, to be having this extra buff. I'm like, it's a field spell that buffs by 200. Who gives a shit? Why is this on the list? It's so weird. I don't know. Dragius 27, too strong. We have a skill that does that now, by the way. We just have 2700 attack Dragius. There we go, exactly. So we have King's Majesty. It's probably fine. Call of the Earthbound. Maybe. This is like probably the... Like, these two are probably the most generic, like, staples. I suppose you could also throw Ghost Cyclone in there. I need to update this because we've still got Spell Tactics on here as well. So we haven't taken those off yet. But, like, these two and Ghost Cyclone are, like, the most staple cards on the Limit 3 list, in my opinion. The anti-Royal Rebel deck to nerf my Auto-Duel deck. Shining is counterintuitive. It'll boost your deck, but also all the meta decks are the same at the same time. Exactly. Shining because Dragius and D and Keto need something at Limit 3, but they just don't play it. And they already have a Limit 2. But that's the field spell. Ghost Cyclone is degenerate. Ghost Cyclone is... Is it degenerate? I don't know if I'd use the word degenerate. It's really good. It can, in some cases, really make back row just completely redundant. Shining makes Galaxy better. If Dragius uses Shining, then Megchan can use Forest. It can. That is something you can do. Exactly why they don't want you to play it depends if your skill has synergy with it, IMO. Yes. There are going to be some situations where Ghost Cyclone even is a lot better. So a good example of this is in the physical game. Volt would play this in his Sea Serpent list. And the reason he would do that is because Sea Serpents could empty their graveyard very, very easily, right? So you just get your entire graveyard empty, and then you go, well, my graveyard's got no monsters in it. Ghost Cyclone, I get a free draw. So in some cases, Ghost Cyclone is just like super, super good. In some cases, less good. Shock Dragon. Shock Dragon sort of makes OTKs better, but it's very high investment. I think Shock Dragon could probably be fine just because of how high investment it is. Like, realistically, it's like body tribute to get out Shock Dragon, and then you realistically need another boss already to make that do anything. So, like, I think Shock Dragon would probably be fine. Also, I would put Hammer Crush to 2. 2 generic that any deck can currently use, especially decks that want to dump their pieces into the graveyard from hand. I think the only deck we've really been seeing using Hammer Crush recently is Light Galaxy, which is a deck that is fine to dump pieces from hand, and a deck that, like, has so much... I don't want to say resource generation, but it has so much resource saving that it doesn't mind discarding a card. Then there's Bright. Bright's probably fine to stay on here. Blue Eyes is already very, very, very generic. The last thing you want is people playing like a small Blue Eyes package in their deck. Innovator can stay. Spark Hearts Girl, why are you on here? Why on earth are you on here? Who decided that Spark Hearts Girl was so strong it had to be Limit 3? Dynamix, fine, it's a maximum, whatever, you can stay. Magical Miracle probably stays. I'm a little bit worried that if we unlimit everything of Psychics, they suddenly become, like, absolutely disgusting. So I don't really want to do that. Then we got Extra Spice. Extra Spice can stay Limit 3. That's fine. We don't want Noodles getting out of hand again. I think the skill nerf was enough. Or the Extra Spice limit was enough. But, like, realistically, we're probably not going to see Noodles seeing much play without another new skill. So... 3 Melody and 3 of this would be crazy, exactly. I know it hurt you saying this. No, it's one of those things where I think that if we get the fusion for the Noodles, Noodles could be a really fun deck again. But having a skill that gives you a +1 body all the time is just not good for the game. Surprisingly, Psychic have actually been the only people to keep their skill that can +1 body them every single turn. Like, as in, like, a normal summonable body. They're the only deck now that has one. So it'll be interesting to see if anyone breaks that in the future. Again, this is a fusion. It can stay. A maximum piece. It can stay. Swift Gaia. Now, does Swift Gaia need to be limit 3? I don't think so. I think we could unlimit Swift Gaia. I think the only reason this is limit 3 was because they were like, every deck needs a limit 3, and Buster Blader is a deck people might play. That's kind of how I feel about it. It's fine. Heroes are the new Noodles. I mean, they kind of are. Like, you know, like they're not, but they kind of are. I think Swift Gaia could come off. I think that was fine. Buster Blader and Ice Dark Bros in shambles. That get farmed by Ashura Star. I mean, exactly. Like, let the Warriors off. Like, Ashura Star's going to beat them anyway. Like, there's no reason to keep them held down even further. Gekka? Why is Gekka on here? Realistically, this is here to be another Seahorse carrier. We don't want people just using it, I guess. Swift Gaia is kind of like Cyber Dragon, though. Yeah, but Cyber Dragon on its own isn't very good. Like, in the physical game, in OCG, Cyber Dragon never saw play outside of Cyber Dragon, right? Like, people weren't just like, oh, I'm just going to play this 2100 normal summon. Because it just wasn't good enough. It was too slow. The meta had just advanced past that. Reverse Sidra. I think any of the summon add one back don't need to be limited. Yeah, that's basically how I feel. Everyone's going to get one anyway, or like some variation of it. People even played it in Blue Eyes White Dragon sometimes. People play Swift Gaia and Blue Eyes. I never actually saw that. I never saw that myself, so I can't really speak to that. I think Gekka probably doesn't need to be on here. Vast Vulcan can stay. Wilhel? Does Wilhel change anything? People even played it in Blue Eyes with Dragon. It was some Angel Cutlass. Ah, I see. It can stay. Wilhel is, like, fine. I don't know. Maybe just because we're playing a lot of, like, lack of removal, maybe Wilhel would be, like, too good. But I think this will be fine. Like, who cares? You got to think about the future as well, though, because they don't want to take it off, then release the rest of the Monarchs, and then have to put it straight back on. So, like, in the context of playing it with the other Monarchs in the future, I think it's still fine. You could probably take it. I think when Monarchs do come out at full power, we would want them to have a limit 3. And Wilhel is as good a limit 3 as any. So, screw it. We can leave it on the list. We can leave it on the list. Then there's Illusion Strike Dragon Mirageus. What the heck is Steel Steed? You don't know Steel Steed Martin Vineri? How do you not know about that Quantum? It's such an important card. I think where her can stay, Imagine Secret Order Galaxy, just free summon and pop everywhere. Well, yeah. Yeah, it's the coin flip one. It's the one from the... What was it called? Selection box. Where you flip coins and then it can attack, and if you get 3 heads, it gets piercing. And it can get multi-attack. It's like... very mid. It is extraordinarily mid. But Illusion Strike Dragon, I suppose we're already talking about. I'll come back to Mirageus in a sec. Vineri is on here because it attacks more than once. That is the reason it's on this list. Because it can attack more than once. Konami will not let this stand. You're not allowed to attack more than once in this game. That is not how we do things here. And if you get very, very lucky, you can get a lot of piercing. Regardless of everything else, that is it. So Vineri is now restricted to the limit 3 hell. Fine. Can stay there, I guess. So back to Mirageus. Mirageus is like... Mirageus only works on 7s and under. Technically, this would still be good into, like, Light Galaxy right now, right? But it's not going to do anything to fusions. It's not doing anything to maximums. They even had to put a limit on the skill, so it inflicts half damage. It's also weird that it's limited alongside Dragius, and they were designed to be played in the same deck. So it's just very strange. I do not know what Ray just said. I'm going to assume it was something very lovely. So then we got Secret Order. This has to stay. This has to stay. Do other Gears have fusions? Yes, they do, Georfio, and they are very, very good. Now, are they as good as Dragiastar? Kind of. So we'll take a look at these. So first up, we'll take a look at both of them real quick. So we'll take a look at this one first. This is the one that I like the most. This is the one that I saw get the most play in the OCG. So this is Sturdy Strike Dragon Meta Gearstar F. So we can send the top card of your deck to the graveyard. All face-up monsters on your field gain 500 attack to the end of this turn. Also, this card can make up to 2 attacks on monsters. So it will become a 35. You make your other monsters also get a boost. 2 attacks on monsters. Okay, all good. Or, all face-up monsters on your field cannot be destroyed by battle or your opponent's trap card effects until the end of this turn. This saw a ton of play, because obviously, Dark Revelation is a thing, right? Mirror Force was a legend trap that came out, like, not long after this card came out. So, because of that, because there are so many trap destruction effects, this card did see a lot of play. And then also this card can attack twice, which means it can attack directly twice. So very, very good. Very, very good. Martin can attack 2 and is 2900, is worse than Dragius, but also can get piercing. I should stay limit 3. It's a very coin flippy card, right? It's very weird. And then the other card is Fantasia Strike Dragon Mirror Gearstar F, made using Mirror Gears. Now this one is a bit more problematic. We can send the top 2 cards of your deck to the graveyard. Up to 3 face-up monsters on your opponent's field lose 1500 attack until the end of this turn. This card can make up to 2 attacks on monsters. Okay, so it weakens your opponent's board. So you can take 4500 attack off your opponent's board and attack twice on monsters. Theoretically, whatever else you've got can now clear because you weaken something by 15. Or you can just attack directly, which I think is really funny. I think that's a really funny effect. Because you could just attack for 3000 direct. Sometimes that just ends the game, right? It's weird, right? The downside of playing this card is you have to play Mirror Gears. And Mirror Gears on its own is super wonky. Its effect is a really heavy cost. You have to discard a level 7 dragon, and it works on barely anything. So a lot of the time, you're running a big old brick. At least when you play Dragiastar, Dragius is kind of okay, right? Dragius still does stuff. Mirror Gears most of the time is doing nothing. Like, okay, you flip 3 coins because your opponent has 3 face-up monsters and get piercing. Well, there's 3 face-up were probably in attack. Yes, I mean, that's kind of how I look at it as well. Like, a lot of the time, even if everything goes right for you, Vinery is still not going to do anything. Like, if the stars align, it can pop off and, like, be crazy. How often are those stars aligning, right? It can be, you have to set up, which is hard. Yeah, but then we can Terror, etc. to get you big damage. Yeah, but now we're talking about, like how much of a big combo here, right? I guess if your opponent's on 3 set monsters, that means you've probably got a few turns to set up. At that point, you can use Vinery to punish your opponent for, like, basically letting you set up. Then you still need to get the 3 heads, which is not particularly likely, but it is a possibility. If we're doing, like, Torero plays, I think it gets a bit wonky. Because, like, now you need to, like, let's say your opponent's got 3 attack with monsters, chances are they've wiped your board. So now you've got to, like, summon your Torero, probably flip something down, then tribute that Torero off to get out the Vinery, then hope that the coin tosses go right. Like, I'm not saying it can't work, I'm just saying I don't know how often it's going to be that useful. But yeah, those are the fusions. So, you know, Mirror Gears exists. Secret Order needs to stay. There's no way that's coming off. Blue Fang Burst Dragon. Why? What would Blue Fang do right now if we didn't limit 3 it? Would anyone be playing this card, like, right now? So forget about what's coming out in the future. Right now, right? This card's now unlimited. Are you putting this in any of your decks? Like, would you just play this as, like, a one-off in, like, a good stuff pile? Would you play this in Dragius? Probably not. We already got Doom Metal at home. Exactly. Blue Fang is like Yami, I think what it's used for is what they're preparing for. The thing is, right, I don't even know if we care. Like, right, when we get Lightwave, right, when we eventually get Lightwave, so for anyone that doesn't know, Lightwave is this guy. Send the top 2 cards of your deck to the graveyard. Up to 3 face-up monsters on your opponent's field lose 1500 attack until this, or during this main phase, right? So this will reduce everything down by 15. That means if it had 3000 or less attack, Bluetooth can now pop it, right? Or Blue Fang can now pop it. So that's like really good. That's really good, right? But without Lightwave, Bluetooth kind of mid. Doesn't really do anything. I still think the fusions for Rex and Bluetooth are next, not going to lie. So the only reason I think that won't happen... God, what's it called? Just like something burst. This one. The only reason I think that might not happen is typically Konami like to release things in anime order more than anything else. That's kind of their guiding arrow. And this card, anime-wise, wouldn't be released for a very long time. And again, just because it's Duel Links and the way they like to do things in Duel Links, I don't think they'd release this card immediately. And also, without the ways to cheat this out, this is kind of crap. So we'd need a really, really good skill to make this work. I still think the fusions for... yeah. So yeah, that's what I think about this. I don't think it's going to come out because timeline-wise it doesn't make sense. And it would be bad unless we got a really, really, really broken one. Tamabot fusions, that could come out. If we're talking about the Tamabots, for sure, we could get Nico Tamabot and Tamabot Burst Dragon. Those are fine. We could release them right now. They wouldn't change anything. But... I've already completely lost track of what I was thinking of. Wait, we're talking about Bluetooth. Yeah, Bluetooth is a weird one, but the other card it's going to get is Red Boot. And in my opinion, unless we get Lightwave, Red Boot is better. Now the question is, does Red Boot have like a hyphen in it? It looks like it doesn't. I'm sure it's Red Boot. Red Boot Burst Dragon. It must be on it, right? There's no way it's not. Where is it? I'm sure it's Red Boot. Is it not Red Boot? Let's filter by Dragon. This one. Red Boot. Yeah, Red Boot Boost Drag. Oh, I thought I was doing Red Boost. Okay, that's probably where we got wrong. So this thing I think is arguably better generically, right? So choose up to 7 dragon type monsters in your graveyard. Inflict damage to your opponent equal to the number of chosen monsters times 100. This card gains attack equal to the number of chosen monsters times 100 to the end of this turn. Then shuffle those into the deck. So you can burn your opponent for 700, boost this up to 31. It's fine. And then you fuse it off into a better version of itself that does the exact same thing but burns harder and gets a bigger boost. You need to summon 2 high-level monsters to fusion this monster. Exactly. Without getting, like, Hybridrive Fusion, it's just bad unless you get, like, a really broken skill. Hello, Dr. Alex. Welcome on in. But yeah, this is... Arguably, I'd be more worried about people playing this generically in other piles than Blue Fang, unless we get Lightwave. If we get Lightwave, like, soon, then yeah, sure. Keep Blue Fang limited. But then at that point, you could just limit Lightwave. But, to be fair, there are other combos with Lightwave. Like, we could play it with, Transamu guy. This one. So there's this lovely guy. Transamu Rhynak Wartuzen. So if you have another face-up light attribute monster with 1400 less attack on your field, well, guess what? Lightwave Dragon is that. We can destroy one face-up monster with 1500 less attack on your opponent's field. So this also works really good with Lightwave. Will we get polymerization? There's definitely a chance, right? I'm not going to say for sure we're definitely going to get poly, but there is definitely a chance we could get it soon, right? Now, are we going to get it immediately? Are we going to get it, like, with the next box? Maybe? Predictions for Euro return cards? I mean, there aren't that many to pick from, to be honest. We're probably not getting his traps, so the most obvious ones would be Cobra Star. Metarion King Cobra Star. This is like the most obvious one. Send 1 card from your hand to the graveyard, draw 2 cards. Then send 1 card from your hand to the graveyard, or up to 3 face-up reptile monsters in your opponent's field use 1,000 attack. This card can attack twice. The other card is probably Snake Clown. Like, they could just give this as like a super or something. It's a level 5, which is like the worst part of it. I don't think these 2 cards really change too much, because Snake Clown, again, being level 5 kind of sucks. You basically want to get Snake Clown in the graveyard, and then you can use Star Restart to bring it back. That's kind of the best way to use this. Other than that, it would probably be maybe the Field Spell, just Imaginary Arc Tower, which again, I don't even think is like a super good card. But if we have light attribute normal monster with 500 defense in their graveyard, while this card is in the field zone, face up non-light attribute monsters in your field game, lose 300 attack. And face up level 9 light attribute monsters on the field cannot be destroyed by trap cards. Again, not too relevant right now, will be more relevant later. But yeah, that's kind of that. I mean, I guess we'll talk about the last couple. Necroman the Third. He's fine. Just take him off the list. I don't know why he's on there, to be honest. Is there a way to break this? I don't think so. And then Grey Storm Reverie is... It attacks twice, so it's on the list. I'm actually a little bit surprised that the Dual Coatulus, whatever it's called, is not limited, just because it attacks twice. And any card that can attack twice, no, you've got to be limit 3. I think the only card that attacks twice and is a boss monster that is not limited is Metageas. I could be wrong about that, but I think that is the case. Outside of, like, you know, like extra deck cards and stuff, because we have Dragia Star F now, right? Yeah, that's kind of that. So we'll close a lot of this stuff. We have our new tier list. This is what chat agreed on. I think this is relatively good. I think this represents the meta as it is currently. I'm quite happy with this. We've gone over talking about, is the game too fast, and do we need more defensive options? I think we had quite a good bit of discussion about that. Basically, we came to the conclusion that trap cards that don't pop stuff but can still stop attacks would be quite nice. I like a bit of back and forth. I like to you do a thing, I stop you doing the thing. I do a thing, you stop me doing the thing. We go back and forth, right? That's what I like to see. We also went over the limit list. I think we got some good stuff there as well. So, with that being said, I think it's time for us to end the stream, because it is 4 o'clock. We have kind of gone over. We actually did plan to do a lot more Meeg games today. That didn't happen. We did a lot more yapping instead, but, you know, what can I say? We do love a good yap. Unfortunately, as far as I'm aware, there's no actual tournaments on today, right? There were... I think previously we've had Cloudies on Tuesday, and I think Brian usually does his, like, towards the weekend more, but I don't think there are actually any tournaments today. But we will be back again on Thursday, and when we do, we will be once again playing in the Angel Cup, followed by playing a little bit ladder, and then I would assume there'll be a Quantum Rush in the evening. But thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.